Well, everyone, welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner, and this is PRT. Just realized my medallion's covering up Mickey Mantle's face. Oh, man, can't do that. Gotta have Mickey Mantle in there. It's my favorite player. Not a Yankees fan, but I like Mickey Mantle. Ty Cobb actually is my favorite player, and Mickey Mantle's my number two. So... got a few things to talk about tonight, and then we are going to jump right in once we get some people in here to get the stories going. First thing I want to talk about is any questions you have regarding what has transpired between us and Abnormal Investigations. You can go and look at the live stream that was posted earlier today. So can you guys hear me? Make sure that I'm used to having that microphone right in front of me.
Yeah, I'm monitoring it.
All right. So go and look at the live stream from earlier today, but don't do it now because we're about to get started here. But after this is over, if you want to know what's going on, go check that out. We have made peace with them, but that doesn't mean that everybody that's involved we're at peace with them. Okay. I had a conversation with Mike and an Abnormal Investigation, and we feel like we've come to a resolution and we're not going to fight, okay? And I'm going to keep my word. So if you want to hear more about it, go and check it out, and I go into detail. And I'm happy with it. It's the new year, and it's been 4 months of this, and I'm ready for it to end. And some people are already firing off on me, saying that, this and that. And I'm like, you complain and complain, now you're, complaining about the peace, whatever. One guy, I'm not going to give too much negative airtime, but I thought it was kind of funny. One guy says, thank goodness Dark Waters and DDoS will keep carrying on the fight. You don't even know that. You don't even know if that's what they're wanting to do. So you're hoping that they carry on the fight. And then he unsubscribed from me. So what kind of nut job, what kind of crap is that? You're upset that the fighting is over. The war is over. Now, I can't honestly sit here and say that this is a person that told me to stop. But then there was another one, she said, 2 months ago. Your name is Yvette. I'm going to call you out, okay, by your name. And you said that you wanted me to stop with this bull crap, whatever. And then yesterday, you're like, say it ain't so. Why are you going to, let these people overpower you, whatever? They didn't overpower me. And nobody did anything to me. I just got tired of it, okay? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to go into the new year at war. Is that too much to ask? I don't understand how that's a problem. Are you okay?
Oh, yes.
You need something to drink? Tony, get her something to drink. You want something, B? Oh, you got something. You got your Buc-ee's, right? We went to Buc-ee's last night. Buc-ee's is an amazing place.
That was life-changing.
But so you're tired of the drama 2 months ago. It was right November. She's like, yeah, you need to stop, please, blah, blah, blah. And then yesterday you're over here telling me that I'm, I'm a bad man. But I let them win. Nobody let anybody win. If that's what you want to believe, go ahead and believe it. I don't care what you want to believe. I'm going to say this one more time, and I said it on the live earlier, and you can listen to that later, like I said, and go into detail. If you want to fight, go fight. See how easy it is to take on 5 channels and do what we did. You go ahead. Okay? Be my guest.
Well, it was as I told you yesterday when we were talking about
off camera.
Let me put the monitor.
Like he says, though, he doesn't even try.
I don't. As I said yesterday, when you were talking about this, I said, the gardeners are often angry when the warriors say they're tired of war. It's easy to say that you want to fight more when you're not fighting.
Yeah. So I wish them all the best over there at Abnormal Investigations. I'm done with it. I don't, and like I said in the live earlier today, I was like, we may not be best friends, we may not even talk. Okay, what he does with his life, and somebody said, "Oh, you're letting this bad guy get away with a." I'm not the jailer. I mean, it's not my job to put him. I'm not a cop. Okay, I'm not a wannabe cop either. Running a security company, having a business, that doesn't make you whatever. I'm not a wannabe cop. I never got into security because it was, I won't be a cop. What are you doing? I'm not one of those kind of guys. What's going on? Thank you, Jason, for that donation. We appreciate it. But, I'm not going to go after this guy. As he doesn't go after me, I don't go after him. That's it. And people started talking about whatever he's done. You know what? Whatever he's done is between him and God and the law. I am not a jailer. It is not my job, nor my want to go after this dude. Okay? I don't care. People telling me that I should use my lawyer for this and that, blah, blah, blah. I was given advice. Okay? It's easier to play defense than offense. And it's very expensive. Now, one of the other people that's been heavily involved in this whole thing, you're not off the hook. When this year is over and I get everything situated, then you know what? Get ready. Because you went a little too far. So that's a situation there that's coming up. And this other dip over there in the UK, I'm not even going to say his name because I don't want to give him any credit. Oh, yeah, right. He literally told Mike on there. Mike went on to his show, which is commendable that he was willing to do that.
Yep.
Because if I did, I'd be cussing him out. And he told Mike a bunch of crap saying that there's not going to be peace. This is what Mike told me. There's not going to be peace. Like you're the one that's going to decide that, dude. I hope that AI and every other channel out there makes an example out of you. Because you want to see this keep going. Because it gives you relevancy. You're not going to get anything out of me. That's it. Moving on. So the new year is coming. Everybody ready for the new year? Bettina,
Yes.
are you ready for the new year?
Yes, I'm excited about the new year. I'm hoping better health, better wealth, and all that good stuff. Peace in the Middle East, Israel, and all that good stuff. Yes. Hoping for the best.
Which side are you rooting for in that? I'm joking. Don't say.
Oh, you don't even want me to.
Let's not even go
Listen,
start arguing about stuff. Let's start a
want me to
controversy right now.
Yes.
Let's go into this whole.
You
Let's
don't
say
want
a bunch of crap that's just controversial. I don't want. Don't even joke. Let's keep going.
If they cover the spread.
Because it's like a team. People do that with the Republican Democrat. It's like a team. You're blue or you're red.
It is.
Yeah, and it's just like gang colors. Are you a Crip or blood? Who you voting for?
Let's get the Vegas odds on it.
Yeah. And then they do the same thing with the Middle East. Somebody asked me that. Like literally, they were joking with me, but
It's like
they asked
politics.
me like, "Who are you going for?" And I'm like, "I'm going for it to stop. Like I want the war to stop. I don't want people
Right,
being killed.
exactly.
How is that? Y'all want stuff." But some people they watch it 24/7. We were over there at the shop the other day, and I'm not gonna say names, but the guy behind the counter. I mean, he works for my friend, but he was watching it like this, like 30, 40 minutes, and he just stood there, just sitting there, kept turning it up.
I can't listen to it around the clock. And I just can't
Too
listen.
stressful.
It's
It is.
stressful, and some things I really kind of even really think it's probably best I don't speak on it, but I really wish that whatever happens in that situation, let God be the God in it all, and whatever needs to happen. Basically, we need peace. We're all human beings, and at the end of the day, the killing needs to stop. The war needs to stop, and it's a holy war. At the end of the
Well,
day.
yeah, and the
that's
thing
what
with
it is.
Ukraine and Russia too. I mean, you got war, just perpetual warfare. It's been going on forever now. It's just month after month after month, and everybody keeps saying, that they want it to stop. They want it to stop, but and then they're looking at their phone. They don't really care.
They don't want it to stop.
Yeah, but they want us to fund it either way. We're supposed to send money to these countries to keep. I'm like, that's where I draw the line: is sending my tax dollars to fund war in another country. If you think that that's okay in any shape or form, that you're out of your freaking mind. That is not okay. You need to look into the facts, okay? I encourage anyone to say, hey, we're not here to fund your war. Thank you for that donation. Solovino, thank you for coming through. Appreciate it. New Year's Eve.
Miguel donated too. It's about your
And
package.
Miguel, thank you so much for that donation. Yes, yeah, Miguel and Jason Brassard. You know, I look at it like this. I'm doing my part, okay? We're over here in a conflict with somebody, and it's hurting a lot of people, you know? I'm not comparing it to the war in the Middle East, all right? Somebody's going to say, oh, you're trying to compare yourself to the war. No.
Yeah, obviously our struggles are more important.
Yeah, come on. No, we're being serious, though. I mean, like, I'm not comparing, but this is an example everybody should follow, because if we all put to rest our conflicts going into the new year, maybe you can make a little bit of a difference. Because there are a lot of people who've been hurt. That's the only thing I agree with the UK guy. But a lot of people have been hurt by this. You're right about that. But like I said before, I didn't start it. But I can tell you this. I can end it. And that's what we did. Everybody could take an example. You can stop with that, whatever it is, you know, just stop messing around. Forgive. Forgiveness is the biggest problem. People don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to forgive. They're like, I'll forgive, but I don't forget. Well, the not forgetting part is just going to keep opening up those wounds until you can't forgive. And Jesus tells us that we're supposed to forgive. And forgiveness is the biggest part of our lives. And that's one thing we're going to talk about tonight. Near-death experiences. Near-death experiences, one of the things I learned about near-death experiences from interviewing lots of people and talking to them about near-death experiences. Ultimately, when somebody tells me, and this has happened at least a dozen times, they said, I died, right? When they see hell, you know what they always say? When they're allowed to come back, they always tell me that they didn't forgive. That is the number one thing I've been told. I've been told that a dozen times at least, that they did not forgive, and they were told that they had to forgive. And if they forgive, then that's when they can go on with their lives. And ultimately, each one of them that told me this, and a couple of them have been on other people's shows and stuff, and I looked at one of them's interview, and then when this guy reached out to me, I'd actually watched his interview, which was pretty amazing. This guy's name was Ethan. And he told me a really terrifying, bone-chilling account of dying and going to hell, or a hell realm, as I call it. And he was being told that he couldn't forgive. He couldn't forgive certain people in his life. I've made no secret I don't like certain people in my family, but I forgive them. I don't hold that hate in my heart for them. I just don't. I don't have it in me anymore. God's taken that away. I get angry. I damn sure get angry. But I'm not going to hold a grudge. Somebody messaged me today, and she was like, did you just forget about everything that's happened in the last 4 months? I said, no, but I just block it out of my mind. And she's like, you're just paying his channel. I said, no, I'm paying them no mind. And I'm going to pay you no mind. I don't give a damn what you think. Because I know what's good for me, my people, and my soul, and my future. And I don't want to go to that land down below. Nor am I trying to get to heaven. That's the thing people don't understand. I'm not doing things for a reward or to avoid a punishment. If that's what your deal is, and your goal is to avoid punishment, or you're trying to get a reward in heaven, that's a problem. Stefan, my roommate, he lives there and lives in a room from us, great guy. He's Islamic. And he's always talking about going to heaven. And he's like, I'm going to eat chocolate cake and live in a palace and have a Jaguar. And he's half joking, but it's also, like that's, some of them believe that's, Christians do the same thing. And they think that they're going to get some magical reward. So let's be good so we can get a reward. I was asked that by someone who had talked to me about life after death. This person, she didn't have a near-death experience, but she was like, what do you think about the afterlife? I said, I don't. I just try to do good every day and do what I can. Do I fail? Heck yeah, I fail. We all do. But I'm not. Dude, that's going to be. I hope we don't have a lot of getting up and down. Boy, it is.
I just gotta call Cliff.
Distracting. Yeah, I know. You got to do it.
Gotta get up real quick.
I know you do. They go like their bladders are real tiny.
Anthony wins, so I have to go.
The chickpea bladder. They take a drink. Gotta go to the restroom. Take another drink. Gotta go to the restroom.
Me too.
We don't have a reservoir like you do to store it all.
Oh my God. You said that.
I'm a large mammal. I don't get up. The whole time I'm here, I'm urinating.
It's a special chair we had connected.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, catheter. Just always
I
has
don't know
one
what it's
handy.
called. So my wife's just like, take this. You will never have to get up. No, I just sit here and tough it out. But sometimes, when the camera's on them, I'm like, phew.
Well, it's also just easier for you to get up than it is for us. We make a bunch of noise since we have to cross each other, basically. Or
Well, we're closer to the wall.
Yeah.
Hard to get out.
Yeah, this thing got moved back or something. The table did. Yeah, dang, it is.
Yeah,
Moved back a lot. We can push it back this way. I don't need this much. Push that side, Tony. There you go. We adjusted it. I strained my forearm the other day. So I was trying to use it, and it was like, that's great. It just reminded me why I'm not supposed to be lifting. Huh?
Sharing this in the group. Sorry.
Waiting for the chat to fill up to hit 300, and then we'll get started on the stories. Wanted to share something with you guys real quick, okay? And this is just let me take a look at this. Because people are over here saying things, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. This is gonna make some people mad. I'm gonna tell you right now. Some people don't like, they get so emotional about this. Come on, man. It's sports. Real quick, I'm going to tell you this. For those of you who think that Dallas won unfairly yesterday, and there's a bunch of y'all, because y'all hate the Cowboys, so you ignore everything that happens in the other team's favor and just key in on the boys. And then somebody asked me, why do you like the Cowboys so much? In fact, it was Ann Celine. We were eating dinner with Ken Gerhardt last night at Pico de Gallo. And Ann's like, why do you like the Cowboys? And I'm like, because I'm from Texas and we're in Texas. I was surprised by that. And I said, I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life. It's not like I just woke up one day and said, I'm going to root for this team. No. The Cowboys, that star represents the lone star of my state. In fact, Tom Landry, the first head coach of the Cowboys for 29 years, he would, if you wrote him a letter, he would write you a letter back. And one of the things he would do is explain what this star meant. And he said that star represents the lone star of Texas. So that's why I root for my team. This Astros is the same thing. That star is the lone star of Texas. It's the same thing. I root for the Rangers. I root for the Dallas Stars. That star represents the lone star.
Our favorite team is the Spurs. I mean,
the Spurs even have a star on there. And everybody always asks that question. Why do the Texas teams always have that star on there? Because it's our lone star. Now, for years, none of the other Texas teams won until the Rockets did in 92, 93. They won it 2 years in a row when they had Akeem Olajuwon, Akeem the Dream. Mm-hmm. But the Cowboys carried the banner for us for years. And so if you think that this stuff that they do to these teams isn't orchestrated, you think Roger Goodell, I'm going to say his name, I'm going to say it point blank, flat out, the officiating crew yesterday, they got demoted so that they're not going to be in the playoffs. I guarantee you, if they had just missed the calls against the Cowboys, they wouldn't have got demoted. I promise you, they would not have got demoted. They got demoted because of that. No other officiating crew has that happened to. All year long, they've been screwing up calls. Cheating, basically, what they're doing, what the league is doing. And nobody said anything, and none of them got demoted. But yesterday, because it went in our favor, the Texas team, they got demoted.
Did the refs demote the Saints and Rams? They didn't. Did they demote the refs from the Saints and Rams game all those years back? No.
No. This officiating crew got demoted for simple reason that they missed a call against the Cowboys. But did they? Here's the thing I'm going to tell you. real quick, and then we're going to get into. I'm waiting for the chat to fill up. Like I said, I'm going to read you something. First of all, there wasn't a missed call on the 2-point conversion because if people that are talking about this don't know football, you don't know the rules. That's the biggest problem. I'll sit there and watch something with somebody, and it'd be a UFC fight. I know the fight game very well. I know, like, if fatigue makes cowards of everybody. I don't care who you are. If you're fatigued, you're going to be, and they're like, oh, what's this guy doing? He's a bum. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, he's a professional fighter fighting for a title belt in a UFC cage and in a mixed martial arts cage. And you're going to criticize the guy because he didn't do what you think he should do. He's fighting another elite predatory guy. Something that you could only dream of while you're eating nachos and drinking beer. And you're talking about the guy being a bum. I was literally at Pluggers one year watching the title fight. It was Cain. What's his name? Cain Velasquez versus, what's the guy's name? The big red-haired guy, Tony? He became a wrestler. Somebody will probably know. Big guy.
Big red. Oh,
Big old
Brock
dude.
Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar. These are elite fighters. These are monsters, dude. And they were trashing Lesnar because he got beat. I'm like, dude, is Kane just that good or is Lesnar bad? Would you fight either one of those dudes? Shut up, man. And this big tub of goo over here was talking. He's like, this guy sucks because he bet money on the guy. And I was like, maybe you should do more research and know about fighting. And he's talking about, yeah, I fought my battles. Yeah, right. Shut up, dude. Okay, just eat your wings and shut up. Same thing happens in football. Watching 1,000 games doesn't make you an analyst. It makes you a retarded fan. That's what it makes you. I'm going to tell you right now. People are always going to cut for their team, and everybody's the same way. They're gonna be like, hey, my team is the best. It's more better than your team, and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to sit there, and they're going to say what they're going to say. And what you think and say doesn't really matter to the big scheme of things. So the Cowboys-Lions game last night, everybody had an opinion about it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the guy was an ineligible receiver. The lineman cannot go out for a pass unless he checks in with the official. And he says, I am an eligible receiver. He's checking in with him, right? Thank you for that donation, Rita Burnett. So he checks in. That's what he's supposed to do. He didn't do that. And then they said, oh, he did, but the official missed it and blah, blah, blah. The officials denied it, whatever. But the guy himself has not come out and said that. So why wouldn't he defend that? Because it didn't happen. So stop lying. All right? It's just because you're blinded by your hatred because you're an Eagles fan or a Niners fan. So here it goes. And it doesn't matter. Have you seen the Ravens? Whoever wins in the NFC is going to get chewed up unless somebody magically knocks that team out because that team is a buzzsaw. They've already wrapped up that whole conference, and they don't even have to win next week. They can rest. They don't even have to show up to the game. The Ravens can literally just call and say, hey, we're not going to show up. We're going to stay home and eat pizza. We're just going to let you have it, and they're still going to be the number 1 seed. The number 2 seed in that conference, the Dolphins, got destroyed today by that team. It would have been a great game to bet on because I knew that was going to happen. I don't know why I just let it happen. I should have done something. I'm not even that much of a bettor, whatever. But damn, that's an easy one right there. Everybody's like, oh, it's a showdown. It's not a showdown when one team's just going to steamroll the other team into oblivion. Everybody said that when the Niners played them, and they beat the crap out of the Niners. Took them behind the woodshed, and the whole time that game was going on, I was just watching the score thinking, I'm glad it wasn't my team getting the hell beat out of them by that team. That team looked like a bunch of convicts that were out on furlough for a weekend. They were mad. They showed up pissed off. And they went to San Francisco, and they literally committed felonies on those dudes. I'm not joking. They hurt those guys. Would they injure like 7 players or something? Today, the Dolphins looked like they were just getting beat up. Like if you were a bully in a schoolyard and you just went up and slapped somebody and called their mama names and then threw them into the monkey bars. That's what happened today. I called it too, man. I was like, Dolphins are going to get spanked. I don't know what these people are talking about. You cheated. The ref cheated for you against Dallas. You got lucky. And you're like, oh, yeah, we're going to play the Ravens. I was like, you're playing the Ravens? Good luck. Wear a bulletproof vest because your pads ain't going to help you. They got throw punched all over the field. So if you think that winning the NFC and going to the Super Bowl is some sort of prize, look at the buzzsaw that you're going to face. All you can do is hope that they have a bad game that day. And I will say it right now in front of the whole world. If the Cowboys go to the Super Bowl and they play the Ravens, there's going to be a problem for the Cowboys. Because they are not on the level. No one is on the level of that Ravens team. That team looks like they are solid. Amazingly, the Browns beat them. The Browns beat the Niners. Get this. And the Browns have beaten several good teams this year. The Browns look tough. They look like they might be the only team, maybe if the Bills get really hot and lucky, that could have a chance against the Ravens. And everybody in the NFC better hold their breath and hope that that happens. Because if not, you are going to get your ass beat all over that Super Bowl field by those Ravens. Now, I love you, Shane Michael Crisp. You were a very good friend of mine, West Coast Dogman Project. I don't know if he's in the chat. But I'm going to tell you right now, Shane was talking about you want to get back and go to the Super Bowl so you can play the Ravens again? I was like, I don't think so, dude. I really don't think you want that. You don't want that smoke. They look like... So here's what happened. It says, a missed call late in Saturday night's game between the Detroit Lions and Dallas Cowboys led to an even higher profile error in what has escalated into the latest and most egregious example that the NFL has an officiating issue. Oh, really? The latest controversy surrounding referee Brad Allen and his officiating crew involved an overturned two-point conversion by the Lions. May have been avoided if not for another missed call on the Cowboys' previous possession. Now, this is ESPN analyst. It says it right there. Let me see. ESPN. Right? Okay. So it says, Allen's officiating crew is expected to be downgraded, which will influence whether those officials are chosen for the postseason. The Cowboys owned a 17-3 lead when they intercepted Jared Goff at the Lions' 29-yard line with 2:05 remaining. Tony Pollard's 7-yard run on the ensuing play was called back after Dallas tight end Peyton Hendershot was called for tripping, and then the Cowboys faced a 1st and 25 on the Lions' 44. Video of that initial first down play reviewed by ESPN showed that Lions defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, not Hendershot, should have been the one flag for attempting to trip Pollard. The NFL has not commented on the tripping call mistake as of Saturday morning. And of course they haven't. Because Goodell doesn't like us. Do you? This is a guy that took pictures with the Kendra Lust, the porn star. He's posing with her. Real classy woman. The kind you take home to mama. Introduce her. So this is the commissioner of the NFL, right? I'm going to address Chris Kramer now. Chris Kramer, friend of mine. Here's what he posted. The ref with the Cowboys, right? I think that's the one time that you could say all year long that the Cowboys, and even then you can't say it because I just showed you. Right, Chris? Also, I'd like to have you come on the show and we could talk about cryptids and things like that, not the Cowboys and the Sheagles, your team. He got big mad at me. Dude, you've been posting this S word about Philly for months. Take a little back. I don't know what that means. Take a little bit. You mean take a little break? I'm not talking about Philly. What are you talking about, Philly? Oh, that's right. Philly got beat by the Cardinals today. So the Cowboys only got to win next week against the Commanders or whatever their name is this week. And then we get the number 2 seed. But like I said, what is the big prize, Chris? Honestly. Shane, you're a Niners fan. Chris, you're an Eagles fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. What is the big prize? Playing the Ravens? No, thank you. Y'all can have it. I want my team to be intact next year where we might be able to win. Where we don't get that snot beat out of us by this convict team. They're like the longest yard, dude, or whatever. What's that movie called with it?
Is it?
Dude, they like come out just pissed off, like just angry. Looking like they've just been in jail they released them like to just hurt people. That Dolphins game, that was scary. That was bad. Like they were just beating them up, dude. They beat last week the 49ers, who were the biggest team probably they just beat their two biggest competitors, like bad. Like beat the crap out of them. So there you go. Chris just messaged. I just sit here, just answered it on my live.
It's Chris Kramer. Mm-hmm. I love it. I told him to get in there.
He just put that about an hour ago. He said, tripping call. That's Alex Rudd. Never mind. That's somebody else. I thought the same dude.
I said, Chris, get in there. He calling you out. Catherine Gay just showed up. Y'all make sure y'all let everybody know in the chat. Share this live out. And we're going to have a good show tonight. We're just trying to bring up the likes. We're trying to bring up a good mood, good attitude, bring in the new year. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah. So we got 289 people here. You know, it's New Year's Eve, and we're on earlier than we usually. Look at my hair, boy. We're on earlier than we usually are. My wife showed Bettina and Maddie a picture of me.
Oh my gosh.
When I let my hair go out and see what happens.
It's almost as curly as mine.
Yeah, my hair gets really curly. If I don't comb it, like, you know, and I just say to heck with it, it gets really bad. But I straighten it out. So I do have wavy to curly hair, I guess. Got a bunch of things going on today. We got a big festivities to go to after this.
Josh, you should tell them about our little trip last night.
Oh my gosh.
That was hilarious.
We're going to talk about it. Waiting to get some people in. There's not many people in here.
People out doing their New Year's Eve stuff tonight.
It's work stuff, dude. Dang it. Somebody said something about me being on the phone. I'm like, you try running a business. They think that this is all I do, that I just sit here and do podcasts. And no, I don't.
You're on the phone during a podcast. A lot of the times you're multitasking. You're dealing with the chat. You're dealing with other stuff. You're sharing with groups. It's a bunch of different stuff that's going on. We have lives outside of the live streams also.
Yep.
Nobody's just always texting. I'm messing with my phone when I'm on my lives. It's multitasking. You have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. If you ever start your own live chat, if you ever start your own podcast or own platform, then that's something that you'll understand. But it's not on a level of trying to be unprofessional. There's work actually being done. Like, since I've been on this live with Josh tonight, I'm actually going through the process of, and that's why Josh also has a team. I'm sharing his podcast out to like several different groups. So sometimes when we're getting ready to set up for these shows, it doesn't always go as planned, as easy. Sometimes there's glitches in the show, and then you don't get to always share it out like it needs to be shared out. So there's work being done even when you think we're not working. We're working nonstop. Like, there's somebody, you got the people with us out there working in the chat, moderating, and then you have people who are actually behind the scenes that's doing the work, like Tony and Mushu. So it's a job. It's actually work, like, nonstop. So it's not texting. So I just wanted to make sure I threw that out there for y'all. For y'all do not understand, it's a job. It's work.
Mm-hmm. Just for the people who are like, well, where are the stories? Why is he talking about this? He says it all the time, waiting for the chat to fill up. He usually waits till it's at about 300. So he's not just going to start right off the bat. We want to give people a chance to actually make it here before we start.
And we understand it's New Year's Eve too, so some people are out. Some people are having New Year's Eve parties right now. We understand that. We have our own New Year's Eve celebration we're gonna have tonight as well, but like we're trying to wait. So we understand like it may not be as many people. People are going out to parties tonight. People are having people over for food, drinks, and stuff like that. So we get that. But everybody who's out tonight, make sure you have a safe and healthy night. Like if you're drinking, drink responsibly, all that good stuff. But just understand, like, we are regular people. We're normal people. We're podcasters that y'all follow, but we're also regular people at the end of the day. And that's it.
Are you trying to tell me, B, that you think family and New Year's is more important than PRT?
He's
Wow.
This podcast.
That's horrible.
No,
I thought
PRT.
you were a friend.
PRT comes before everything in life. Besides God, I
It should be a
live
part.
and breathe PRT.
Yep, that should be the
PRT.
number one priority in
I
your
got a
life. If it's
tattoo.
not, what are you doing?
You got a tattoo.
I got it tattooed on my back.
I got mine scheduled for tomorrow, so
Boop, Tony. Tony.
Yeah, Tony, where's your
I need to
tattoo?
boop. Tony, get over here in the camera. They
It's
can't
right
see.
here. I have to put it.
Boop.
Why are you holding a sword, dude?
Oh, Lord.
Okay, well, making people nervous over here.
I didn't even know.
Ain't nobody getting nervous.
I didn't even know.
Oh,
No, but yeah, so like there's all kind of stuff. Like I said, we want people in the chat. Like we're trying to wait. Like Josh said, Josh, what time do you usually go live on Sundays?
7.
7.
About
But
7:30, really, honestly. You know. 300. There we go. So the thing is, you can't rewind, and there's a reason we had to do that because we had a lot of problems with that. So when you can't rewind, you know, people start commenting, and then they get behind, and then the chat gets all jacked up. So that's why we're doing. That's why we have to do that. So here we go. All right. So near-death experiences. Got a near-death experience from a guy. He told me a horrible, horrific story. He was sitting on his couch. He was 39 years old, not a very old guy. And what happened to him was unbelievable. He thought he was having acid reflux, like he had eaten.
yeah.
And I am going to say what he ate because I don't like this, but he ate menudo. I don't want to say.
Yeah, I don't either.
His wife's Mexican, right? And he's a white guy. But he ate menudo, and he said that his wife went to work. She had a job where she owned a janitorial company. She ran one down in Houston. And he was sitting at his house watching TV. Now, this may have contributed to him dying too, it was friends. So he said, dude, I lost the remote. I was so full. He goes, and I felt so miserable. He's like, I lost the remote. The remote was, across the room, but he didn't want to get up because he felt so miserable. And he says, I just felt bad. I felt really bad. So what ended up happening, he had a heart attack and didn't know that he was having a heart attack.
Wow.
Liberty says you love menudo. Love menudo. Good God, dude.
Well, you like menudo?
I don't like the food or the band. I don't like either one. I am good with that. Not my wife likes it. Scorpion likes it a lot too.
I can't.
I mean, what's
I
the
just
point?
cannot do
when
tripas. I'm sorry.
Me neither.
there's literally a better option. Like, why would you even?
What's the
Yeah,
better option?
pasole.
Pozole? Oh, yeah.
Pasole is
I can,
way.
Pasole is so
Pasole, I'll
much
eat
better.
that all day.
And it
Pasole
doesn't have all the
verde
nasty bits.
I like both.
I'm pretty sure.
You're talking about the pasole rojo.
yeah, I like the red one better.
I like the red one, but I'll eat both.
Oh, yeah.
The red one's better, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the verde is good too.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I mean, that's probably why
it's a Latino thing. It's not tripas. That's why I like it. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's like tips.
Tripe. Is it called tripe?
Tripe, yeah. Oh my God, you like that stuff?
Yes.
Garbage
I love
food.
that.
Because it's almost as when we went to go look, Scorpion wanted to make some a few years back, and we went over there to La Fiesta. What's it called? Not La Fiesta, the other one.
Fiesta.
No, not Fiesta. Not that one. The La Hacienda.
Hacienda.
We went to La Hacienda, and because they were one of our clients, and so we went in there, and they usually have the meat for cheaper than, and it was as much as getting tips. Why would organ meat be as much as getting tips? That's the scraps. That's why poor people used to eat that. Mm-hmm. Now they figured out they're like, oh, the poor people eating chicken wings. Now the rich people eating chicken wings, and they're eating tripas. So let's raise the price so everybody has to pay more. But anyway, that's beside the point. He ended up making some horrible abomination that was what he called pasole, because he had some tips, and it was like just $1 more to make that. And I was like, thank goodness, because I wasn't going to eat that night. I was like, I'm going to go to Whataburger. Y'all had Whataburger today. You know it's good, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, Whataburger's good.
amazing.
I said, I'm going to eat Whataburger. Y'all have the tripas. I'm good.
Ugh.
So what ended up happening with this guy, He's laying on the couch. He falls asleep. At least he thought he was falling asleep, and it wasn't a dream. He'd actually had a heart attack. And the pain got so bad in his chest, he couldn't get up, he couldn't breathe. He managed to call 911. He pulled out his phone. This was like 10 years ago. He called it 911. And then he went unconscious. But luckily, he had called his daughter, and she was at a school function because his wife was not answering. His wife was busy and working in the building, whatever. In the building where she was at, she couldn't get signal. So his daughter showed up, and he had been laying there dead, literally dead, for several minutes by the time they showed up. And the daughter let them in. The EMTs were like, this guy has no pulse. This guy is done. It is a miracle that this guy was able to be, resuscitated, defibrillator, and they brought him back. I don't know all the ins and outs or whatever. I didn't really talk to him a whole lot about what's going on, man? I'm trying to do this. Seriously, I'm trying to do this, and you're talking to this dude. What's going on?
Just ask him if you locked the door.
Okay, yeah. Did you lock the door?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're good. All right, let's do this. So anyway, it's a miracle that he managed to live, right? And the thing that really stood out to me with this was that this guy was a Christian. This guy went to church. Now, he said he didn't go to church every week. He missed some church. So I got to stretch my neck. And it wasn't like he was the most God-fearing man, all right? I'm telling you right now, he was very honest with me about that. Because, some people, I don't know what they want to do. They want me to believe that they're really holy or something. They're like, well, I was very holy and I don't know what happened. No, this person was very honest. He goes, dude, I did some things. But one of his biggest sins was he had a brother. Now get this, who wouldn't be upset with this guy? What his brother did was an egregious sin, okay? His ex-wife, when he got married when he was real young, and she was a wild woman, and his mother told him, hey, get to know her, right? You know how the mama tells you that. He didn't do that. And he caught his brother with his ex-wife. Now, that might not have been so bad because he was able to get away from this horrible person and find the love of his life and marry the woman he ended up with and having a child with, 2 children. But this same brother did the same thing to his high school sweetheart. So that was the second time around. So he had an absolute hatred in his heart for his brother. And his brother was sitting in prison, and by his own admission, his brother said, I was not a good person. Now, apparently, because when he told me this story, his brother's actually, him and his brother are close now. They're good friends. His brother found Christ in a big way in prison, and now he actually does ministry to prisoners, which is good. It's an admirable thing. And he admitted, he said, dude, I was not a good person. I lived my life in sin. And he goes, and I did things to my family that were wrong. He stole from his own mother. So this other guy, Ethan, what he tells me, he says, my brother turned his life around. We're now friends. Obviously, everything's fine because they're sitting there on the phone together. I was telling this to Chris today, when Chris Clough, who's been with us this few days. When you do what I do and you talk to people, and I talk to several people a week, and it's not always long, drawn-out conversations, but you talk to somebody for about an hour, you get a story from them. Sometimes it turns into longer because they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. And one of the things I like about this part of my job, which it is a job now, I like to hear people's stories about themselves and talk about what they do, and you get to know people. A lot of people are just average Sally, average Joe, and they just had some experiences. But some people, they'll say, there's nothing really remarkable about me. I think there's something remarkable about everybody. We're all just average people here. We're not the elite, obviously. We're not the patricians or the proletariat, right? So what ends up happening is a complete transformation of his life. And I said, tell me, Ethan, how did you get to this point? Because this seems like, you were so angry at your brother, you died. He gets to the hospital. He dies again. He goes back and they bring him back. And he said, dude, it was horrific. He said, when I died on the couch, it was like instantaneous. He goes, I heard a scream that sounded like a roar, like a river flowing. He's like, and I look, and there's nothing but darkness, and I look down, and I'm like falling through this darkness. And as I was falling, and it was like I was getting closer to my destination. He's like, I smelled this acrid smoke. It was like sulfur. He goes, and I land on this like little rock, and I stand up, and there's people everywhere. And they're just swaying back and forth, like walking around on fire. He goes, and the rock is just starting to shrink. And I'm about to fall into what looks like lava. He goes, and everybody is screaming. There were no demons there torturing him. He didn't see that. But he was in a dark place that smelled horrible, and everybody there was suffering. He came back out of it. He woke up and he was like, oh, what a weird dream. And he's laying there. He goes, and I hear this beep, and there's this intense pain. And then he hears beep, 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 and his heart beating again. Doctors are working on him to bring him back. The doctors, there's a nurse slapping him on the face. Not slapping him, but moving his face, saying, stay with us. Are you okay? Can you answer me? Blah, blah, blah. He tells her, yes, he could speak. He could barely speak. And the pain, he said, to speak. Then he goes back under. Like he goes out again. And he says, dude, the pain went away. And then I was met by a more intense pain and a heartbreak that you couldn't imagine. He's like, I was in hell. He goes, and I screamed at the top of my lungs, God, help me. He said, Jesus, help me, please. I don't want to be here. He comes back out. He sees in the corner of the room this black figure that he can only describe as like the Grim Reaper without a scythe. And it was just waiting for him. And he knew that it was going to drag him back down. That was the force that was pulling him back down. And then he sees to his right a light. And was a hand. It was like a hand, like a right hand came down. Like a giant hand that would envelop the entire room. And when he went back out again for the third time, he was lifted up by this hand, and he was sitting on a hand. Like he looked, and it was like you could see the creases on the hand. He goes, it was crazy, it was weird. And this booming voice told me, it was like, go and sin no more. Forgive. It's not your time. And that was it. So when he came to, eventually, his wife is there, everybody's there, his family comes, whatever, except for his brother. His brother was in jail at that time. He's like, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, dude, I knew automatically who it was that I hated, that I needed to forgive. He said, Josh, it was my brother. He's like, I hated that guy with a passion that you wouldn't believe. He's like, the passion that Jesus has, love for us. He's like, I had hatred for my brother. Rita, tomorrow's your birthday. Happy birthday. And so it's so unreal. His words, right? He said, it's so unreal that I knew this is what's wrong with me. He's like, I didn't forgive. I didn't love. He's like, and not only did I not love, I hated. He's like, I know now that if you die with hate in your heart, you're going to go to a place. He goes, I don't know if it's a permanent state of being. He's like, I wasn't given any answers for that. All I know is what happened to me and where I went. And I was told to forgive. Very important thing. Very important. And for me, it's an easy thing, but a lot of people, it's not an easy thing. They can't just forgive and move on. You think I'm joking? Like for me, it's not hard. Like this whole thing with Mike, I'd forgive you. It's over. And I promise, I give you my word. I won't say another word against you. You don't say anything about me, I will defend myself. But I'm not going to speak a word against this guy. I don't care. He's done. I don't care what he's done or what he hasn't done. That's between him and the law, and that's between him and God and him and his family. That's a family feud. I don't want to be involved. Let them play family feud, not me. Not being smart and being honest. That's their situation. So, that is what awaits those. Possibly, right? But here's another one. I'm going to tell you this one. I've never told this one on the show, and Anthony, you've heard this one. This one is about my own mother. And I thought, what better way to talk about it but than to tell it right now? I feel the Spirit moves me to tell you this today. I said, you know what? I need to do this. I am a sinful man. We all are. If you think you're not, well, any of us get to heaven. It's by the skin of our teeth and by the grace of God. Every day you should reaffirm in the mirror, to me, this is what I do, and you should tell God, God, Father of Christ, you want to talk to the true God, right? I'm a sinner. Look in the mirror. By your grace I live, by your grace I die. By your grace I'm saved. If you're rejected at the end, there's no mistakes. It's because of what you've done. And that goes for me too. I don't know 100%. I wish I could say that. But it's scary. We're walking a tightrope, folks. The Zoroastrians believe that you're literally walking on a rope, right? And you fall one way, it's heaven. You fall the other way, it's hell. But it's all up to you. Some people believe that these are topic realms, that we created these with our beliefs. Well, that may be true, it may not be, but the bottom line is you could still go there. And I don't want to be there. You know, there's always these smarmy people. This is the DMT that goes into the brain and makes you have a hallucination of the little buggies and bubblish fish out. Okay, yes, that's right. Whatever you say, okay? But the bottom line is there are thousands of people who die all the time, right? And have this happen to them. So I don't want to hear about the brain and the hooba majoob goes into the Ramstein. I don't care about all that. I'm just telling you right now what is real to me is that this could happen to you. And I care about you. And I really do. I care about everyone. And I want what's best for you. What happened to my mother needs to be told. And today is the time. She died in 2021. May 16th, right, Anthony? So, my mother in 2007 had a surgery. It didn't go so well. The doctor did a horrible job to remove a kidney stone, which should have been a simple thing. It really ruined her life. He lacerated her pancreas, ruined her kidney, taking a simple kidney stone out. Nearly killed her. She had an open wound for almost a year. So she dies. She goes out on the operating table. She passes away, right? She goes out. When she dies, this demonic figure, that's the only way we can describe it, as a demonic figure, black, dark black like my shirt, charcoal, evil black figure shows up. Starts to drag her to hell. She could hear the screams, she could smell the smoke, and she knew. And she was a Christian. She was a person who paid lip service to it, though. I'm a Christian. My mom, by her own admission, was not a good person, and she hated a lot of people. She carried a lot of hate in her. She loved Anthony. She loved me, but she didn't treat me like somebody that she didn't treat me like a loved person. And in point of fact, she really didn't treat anybody the way she should have. I was probably one of her biggest critics, but I was no better than her. I just had gotten my crap together and thought, you know what, I'm better than this person because I've seen the light and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Which was being a law-abiding citizen, which is like whoopee-doo. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to get a medal because you don't go commit crimes. I'm like, I'm not committing crimes anymore. I'm a good guy. I wish I could go back in time and be like, newsflash, knucklehead. That's what everybody's supposed to be doing, right? You're not supposed to be out there committing crime. You don't see somebody on the street going, oh, you didn't kill that dude. Congratulations. Here's some cookies. No. Stupid. You're not getting a medal because you don't commit crimes. And when I hear people's stories now, they're like, oh, and then I stopped doing all kind of bad stuff and stuff. Well, that's good. That's good that you did. I quit doing it too. But we're not going to get rewarded for that. That's not how it works. But here I was, judgmental of my mother. When she first told me this story, I thought, man, this makes sense. She was not a good person. That might have been hard for you to fathom, Anthony, because you knew her in a good sense.
Yeah, I didn't have the same perception of her. I mean, because she doted on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I didn't grow up with the same woman that y'all did.
She babied him.
Yeah.
I go up in there, and he's eating cookies and playing Xbox and drinking juice boxes and stuff. I'm like, what is this kid? And then I was living down South Austin, that haunted ass house, and my mom was like, you know what? Sorry for saying the bad word, but you know, my mom, she's like, you can come stay with me for a little while, whatever. Me, yeah, okay. Right before her surgery, I said, okay. I go up there to stay with her. I couldn't be there for 3 weeks. I couldn't be around her. It was so awful. And she's like, oh, you don't have to pay nothing till you can get your own place up here. That didn't happen. I was paying the electric bill. I don't want to get into it. And this dude was hanging out in the room I was supposed to be staying in. He was in there playing video games. I couldn't expel him. I'm like, well, he's in there playing with. She's like, well, when he's done playing video games, he could come out. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, man, this is a nightmare. I was sleeping in the office. I was like, dude, these people, it's not your fault. You were a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't jump on you. I just said, see, I'm not a bad guy. I didn't jump on his little ass. Excuse my language, but I was like, you know what, this dude, he's over there playing games in my room, and I'm supposed to just be like, whatever. You know, I even complained to your mom about it. 2007. I don't know. What am I? 48? 40? Am I 40? What is this? What year is this? 2020? It's about to be 2024.
About to be 24.
Okay. I don't know. Do the math.
So you're like in your late 20s, early 30s.
I don't remember how old I was. 2007.
Can you believe that in your late 20s, early 30s, you had to go tell your mom that some kid was in your room playing video games?
Yeah. It was Anthony.
I mean, I didn't even know that you were in there waiting. But I mean, like
I never bothered to tell you. I just dealt with it.
I was so oblivious and paid so little attention to anything that even if you did tell me, I probably would have went over my head. So I could get back to my racing game that I was playing that she bought for me, because I waited for like 3 hours for her to finish doing her nails, and then she was like talking to the ladies there, and she loved to just talk to people and talk and talk and talk. And I waited.
People love talking to her
for like 3.5 hours while they just talk. And then she's like, "Oh, you were so patient. I'm gonna take you to Sam's and we're gonna get you a new game."
Baby Jew. 32. I was 32. So at the age of 32, I moved back home for 3 weeks to save money, which ended up costing me about $3,000. Cost me a grip, especially back then. And I was starting my business at that time. So I was basically, and I just took over, started living out at the lake, sleeping in the pool room of the house that we were building out there, because I was working for a very wealthy woman and her husband, very nice people. They're wealthy, but they're very nice people. They were very accommodating. And I helped them out immensely, but that's another story. And I just put it in my rearview mirror. I never bothered him. I just was like this little turd. But, you know, he was a good kid. He wasn't a bad kid. Like you said, he was oblivious. But I was over there thinking, you know, I'm a good guy. You know, I'm a good guy now. I'm not doing bad things. Which is like whoopee-doo. You ain't supposed to be doing them in the first damn place. You're not supposed to get a medal for it. Like I said, my mother was still living on the bad side of her life. She saw a man appear in her hospital room. He came. Now, this is the second time. She had went unconscious. They brought her back. And she thought it was so real. It was real. It wasn't a dream. But she was sedated. Right? And the doctor did some really shady stuff. So they put her in the hospital room. Shortly after she's out of surgery, these nurses, these people, they don't know what's going on. They don't know that she had actually passed away on the table. She ended up dying again in the middle of the night. This time, this demon came back into her room and started to drag her to hell once again. She looked down this bottomless pit. It was like swirling, and she saw the flames down the bottom of it. Then this man comes into the room. She described him too, clearly. I talked about this the other day at the house. What she told us. She described him. She says he needed no introduction. I knew who he was. It was Jesus. She said he was darker skinned guy. And he walked in and he began to speak in a language that she didn't understand. And he told that demon, she's like, I knew what he was saying, but I couldn't understand it, if that makes sense. She's like, in the spirit, you just know, right? And he demanded that that demon leave because she cried out to Jesus. When she awoke from that and being unconscious and being dead, that time I think she said was like 3.5 minutes. There was 7 minutes that time, 3 minutes the first time. And like I said, there was a lot of shady things that went on. But there were so many frivolous lawsuits that the doctors put together like a coalition, so you can't really sue them for malpractice like you used to.
Wow.
You're only going to get like a certain amount, whatever. And this doctor got away with it. He moved to like Colorado or something, and he got away with it. You okay? So what ended up happening, my mother tells us, she's like, I knew that I wasn't a good person. She's like, I knew that I wasn't living my best life, that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And she's like, I had to come to terms with what I was. She's like, I was an unrepentant sinner. I thought I was living good. I was doing right. She's like, I wasn't. She said, I had a list a mile long of people that I didn't forgive. And she told me, she encouraged me after that point. She began a journey that from 2007 till 2021, she did a complete transformation. It wasn't instantaneous. It was not. But she changed. She did, and I watched it. And here I am. I'm going to tell you right now, from my part, I was not nice with her in the beginning because I thought, is this real? She wasn't a liar. So I knew something happened to her, but I didn't know if she'd really changed. I tested her over and over again, thinking at some point it was going to become, the mask was going to fall off. This is what happens when somebody passes away and they're not right with God. Jesus did come in and he did save her. And what was she told? That she needed love in her heart. Jesus touched her right there on her chest. How many people can say that that happened to them? I've never told this story on the show. Every bit of this is what my mother told us. Anthony knows this is true. Jesus fought for her that night and brought her back from the edge of the abyss. There was a struggle between her and this demon, between her and Jesus, between him and Jesus. And Jesus prevailed, of course, and had his way and told her, forgive, love. That was it. And she was spared the flames of hell. And the rest of her life, she would tell that story to many people. We were going to have her come on the show, but she took ill. And she recovered, and then she got ill again, and then eventually she succumbed in 2021. And she knew she wasn't going to make it out of the hospital. She had called me and said, I don't think I'm going to make it out this time. And I couldn't go see her, unfortunately, because of the vid. St. Luke's there in Houston had a one-person policy for people in the ICU, which I understand. She was elderly, almost 70 years old, and she could get that, and it would have finished her off. So I didn't get to see her until she had had her stroke, and she was just coherent enough to talk to me. So the one thing that I'm not sad about, that I can say that is I know my mother is not in hell. I know that my mother is not in a bad place. That's what gives me comfort. That's what gives me solace. I know that she's okay. So, well, you want to just roll over there? Y'all two take over. Bettina had to excuse herself. Her and Maddie. Maddie went with her. Bettina is emotional right now. My mother, I know now, is where she's supposed to be. I don't have to worry about that. That is not something that troubles my mind. What troubles my mind is those still here that I love, that I care about, and that I'm close to. You should pray every day for them. Every time they come into your head, just say a little prayer. Pray all day, every day. Because you yourself, you need prayer. You can't fall on what you think you know as a person. The wisdom and intelligence of man is not going to save you from the flames of hell. And I'm not here to preach fire and brimstone. I'm telling you the truth of what we know from the other side, those that have gone and seen heaven, those that have seen hell, and those that have been in purgatory. It's real. Or these people wouldn't have had it happen to them. And my mother was one of them. Like I said, I've never told this story on the show. I just didn't feel like it was the right time. And me and Anthony, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Along with my brother, who was there when my mother told the story. Scorpion was there too. I don't know if he's in the chat, but he was there too. She told us this story. She said, this man that fought for me and my soul was Jesus. And she lived. She lived another 14 years of her life.
Yeah.
To be a testament to God, that he is real, that Jesus is real. Pulled her away from that. So, that being said, that was her near-death experience. The sounds that people hear when they pass, it's unbelievable. The smell, because you still have a lot of your human, intact. It's unreal. And you got people running around, maybe somebody listening right now, who thinks they're on the right side. But if you don't love and you don't forgive, you're not on the right side. Quick to call everyone else out on their sin.
Yeah.
You need to go to the crazy house. You first. Quick to call everyone else on their sin, right?
It's a common thing.
Don't be doing bad. I'm gonna whoop you.
And they can critique everybody's paintings, but they can't paint anything themselves.
And you have this all the time. So pray for yourself. Pray for those around you. Love God, Christ, the Holy Spirit. Let it flow through you. That's the omnipotent energy of God. And I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to beg for donations, as they claim. I never have done that. Not preach a little bit maybe, but not, Yes, there are stories of purgatory, Robert. Yes. But right now, we're going to move on. We're going to tell another story, and we're going to move on. Sort of in the same vein, but this is a person that reached out to me. Now, you remember yesterday, now Bettina left because she's emotional, but, and I'm sorry for that, Bettina, that she got really emotional when she was sitting here.
Yeah.
But really, Sherry Porter, our preacher, Pat, preached on love and forgiveness today. Yes, it's the new year. Why not? It's a perfect sermon, but nothing's perfect, but you know what I mean. Let me tell you something. If you don't forgive, you're going to be sorry. You're going to regret, okay? I can tell you this right now. This story I'm about to tell you shows you what we're dealing with every day of our lives, and we have no clue. These people lived in, I thought it was Vermont, but they actually lived in Delaware when this happened. And her name is Loretta. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give any more information out at her behest. And I said, okay, we're going to go by Loretta. What she told me was her husband was in the military, right? He had been given a new position, and they were getting ready to move. And before they moved, he was at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Thank you for that donation, Fishing with Fredo. They ended up going to Delaware. She had a nightmare 2 nights in a row before they moved officially. They had everything packed. This creature, something demonic, came up out of the ground in her front yard. She said it was red and it had black on its head, like the hair was black, but it stuck out everywhere. And she said it was really, really muscular and had a devil's tail and hooves, and it looked just like a demon, like you would think a demon would look. And she said, it struck me when you guys were talking about, it was Insidious, the movie Insidious. I've seen the first one, and now I've seen the most recent one. Creepy, weird stuff, right? This demon, this entity, whatever it is, she's like, it looked kind of like that. She's like, when I first saw that movie, I was struck at how much it looked like it. She said, though, until she saw they showed the face and it just like, it didn't have any hair on top of its head. She said this thing had like hair that looked like spikes all over its head. She also said, have you ever seen like how they depict like Celts where they take their hair and they, grease it and put it into spikes or whatever?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. She's like, I tried to look for images that looked like what I saw. That's the closest thing I could come to. And we know this from the Romans' description of them, because the Celts didn't have a written language and they didn't leave any records. It was all from the Romans and those that fought them.
Yeah.
So she said that this thing had red, the body was red, like Hellboy.
Huh.
She said this thing came walking into her room, and it wasn't really big. It was just kind of like, maybe 5 foot, hunched over. And it says, I'm with you. When it said that, this thing apparently bonded with her, as has she claimed. When they moved into the new place, the first week she was there, she's like, nothing happened. She's like, we get settled in, I'm unpacking, and I'm in the office, which is going to be my husband's office. And she says, then I hear what sounded like a small hoofed animal walking through the house. She's like, I walk out and I'm like, what is that? She's like, I smell something that smells like sulfur. And she's like, you know what? I don't know what this is. She's like, I'm just imagining it. Nothing had been going on for the first week and a half, I think she said. She goes back into the office, continues to unpack. She gets to a cross. And oddly enough, it was a Celtic cross. She goes to hang it on the wall. This thing turns upside down and falls. And she's like, what the heck is going on? What is that? Why did that just happen? It breaks. She writes it off. She gets really tired after the end of the day. She goes and lays down, takes a nap. As soon as her eyes were closed, she said there was this thing. She opened her eyes. She's like, and I knew I wasn't awake. It was like a dream, but it was like a nightmare. And there was this creature with the most horrible breath and these nasty black teeth, blackish gray, she said, grayish black teeth, looming over me and slobbering. And she was just like, she started to try to push it and she could feel its shoulders and it was very powerful. And she could see the tail whipping around above it. And she's like, cannot escape this thing. But she wasn't a believer. She didn't believe in God. Her husband was. So she said, for me, I played along. I entertained it because my husband was. She's like, I was not. But let me tell you something. This thing didn't do anything to her husband, but it targeted her and her son.
She was an easier target.
Yeah. Her son was like her. They, mistakenly, in my opinion, allowed him to make his own path, choose his own way at her behest. And so her son decided that he didn't believe in God, that God to him was like Santa Claus, didn't exist. So when he was like 10 years old, well, I guess 9 or when it started, but then 10, you know, because one of the things that happened was during his birthday. He was like 9 years old. This demon makes itself known to him. Now, the daughter, who was a little bit older, she was a devout Christian with her dad. This demon, black, red thing, this ugly thing, comes into his room and tells him, announces itself, says, I am here with you. He flips out, wakes up, turns the light on, doesn't see anything, begins to sleep with a flashlight, thinking that that's going to help because when he shines the light on it, it seems to make it move around, not really go away. So she's leaving for work one day, and the door upstairs to the bedroom is open partway. And she says, it's my son's bedroom, and I hear a giggling like a laughter. Very sinister. She's like, I turned to look. She was a nurse. She turns to look, and she goes, and I see something red just whip around real quick in front of the door. It's all dark in there. So then she says, at that point, I thought, there's something in my son's room. I'm going to go check it out. She's like, I was terrified. She goes, I went to the kitchen. I grabbed a butcher's knife. She's like, I don't know what I was going to do with it, but it made me feel better. So she goes walking up the stairs to confront whatever it is that she just saw. Now, I asked her to go into a little bit of detail. I said, Loretta, can you tell me, this was just earlier, or this morning. I said, can you tell me what it was you saw? She said, yeah. She said, I saw something that looked like if you were looking at an aquarium that's like a dark, like it's, you know, it's dirty. Because she said my son at one point had an aquarium and it freaked me out. She's like, he had to put a frog in there, but the water was so dirty she couldn't see it. And so when they went to look at the aquarium, the frog came up to the aquarium and poked its head, boom. And she was startled. She said, that's what it reminded me of. Looking through the glass darkly, right? She goes up the stairs, and she's like, when she gets up the stairs halfway, she hears the giggle again, the laughter, like a child. Then the door goes. As she's walking, she gets to the top of the stairs. She takes a deep breath. She's about 2 foot away from going into the room. And she says the door just goes boom and closes. She knows her son's still asleep. It's a Saturday morning. And at that point, she hears right there on the other side of the door. When she hears that noise, she knew that this thing meant business. She went to grab the doorknob, and guess what happened? She said it was like there was a fire in there. She's like, it was hot. It burned my hand, Wolf. She called me Wolf. I appreciate that. My friends call me that. Most people don't, and this, whatever. I wasn't called Josh until we started doing this. All of a sudden, now I'm Josh Turner again. But, anyway, she says, Wolf, it burned my hand. She's like, I backed up. She's like, I dropped the knife. She's like, and when I bent down to pick it up, the door opened. She's like, and I looked, and I just didn't even lift my head, and I saw what looked like a hoof. And I smelled sulfur. And she's like, and when I lifted my head more, this is why I'm telling the story, even though I just got it. I had to tell you this one. She's like, I heard screams coming from my son's room, from like 1 million different people. These things are real. They're evil, demonic beings. This thing, whatever it was, announced itself in another language, which she thinks is Latin, and then laughed. Then the lights came on in her son's room, and he came out of the room crying and screaming that something was holding him down, trying to keep him from breathing. I told her at this point, and I wasn't being snarky, I said, at this point, did you believe? Did you decide that you believed in God? Because obviously, to her, she kept calling this thing the devil. I said, you knew the devil was real now. Here's another thing. From the time that they were in Las Vegas, which is where Nellis is, until they moved to the other place, this thing was no longer 5 foot tall. This thing was over 7 foot tall. She asked me why I thought that was. I said, it's feeding. It's getting bigger. We've heard this before. Remember early on with some of the stories we got. Mm-hmm. They grow. They get bigger. They feed on energy produced by fear. They annihilate your psyche. They destroy your physical health, and ultimately the ruination of your soul. Ain't that right? Now I got Bettina back in the studio.
I want to speak on it.
Hmm?
I want to speak on it.
You want to speak on it?
So, what got me emotional when Josh was talking about his mom is because I know that what Josh was saying, for one, that's his mother. And I never met Josh's mother. But I have a mother too. And I know that a lot of people, whether you believe, whatever religion or whatever your beliefs are, whether you are an atheist, whether you are, Buddhist, Muslim, or whatever, not every religion, but some have their own rendition of what hell is. But some people feel that when you die, your spirit, there's no spirit that leaves the body, you just die and you cease to exist. But there's no ceasing to exist. What do you think? Now, I'm going to say that when it comes to ghosts, some people feel like the ghosts, disembodied spirits, and this is not up for debate. Everybody has a right to their opinion, but I'm going to only speak from my experience. I've never seen a ghost, but I do know that when you die, your spirit leaves your body. Now, you can have an out-of-body experience and a near-death experience, regardless of whether it's a near-death. So I'm going to explain near-death experience. Near-death experience is when a person dies. You have no more pulse. You don't have a pulse. There's no heartbeat. You cease to breathe. There's nothing. That is when the coroner will basically declare you to be dead. There's people who've come back from that. There's people who have, on some of these near-death experience documentaries and TV shows and stuff like that, who have even been in the morgue and actually come back to life while in the freezer or taken out of the freezer, and they come back. There's a couple of cases where in some countries where, and I'm going somewhere with this, y'all, so just be patient with me, but a few cases where there's countries that don't embalm people when they die, but they have the funeral like right away within the next day or two after the fact. So the ones that don't embalm the body, then there's been a couple of, probably more than a couple, but for the ones in our time, our day and our time period, in some countries where the ones who did not embalm the body, where a child or an adult actually woke up in the casket at the funeral, and whether they went on to live years later. The ones I've heard, the ones where kids died, and a kid, I remember from a few years ago, a documentary I heard, like, or a show or video, something I seen on YouTube, but, and I know some stuff is fake and hoax, but I'm going to speak to y'all on this because I take what Josh is saying very serious. I get emotional about it because a little boy woke up in the casket at his funeral, and I can't remember if he had ate some fish or what it was, or whatever it was that took him out. But there's certain things that you eat, certain fish or whatever, and then when you do that, then it basically puts you in a state of, I don't know if it's called botulism or what it is, but it'll put you in like a catatonic state to where you cease to breathe, you cease to have a pulse that's so low that it's undetectable. But that little boy came back to life in his casket at a funeral, and the family that was sitting there at that funeral, they woke, they looked, and they're of course happy. They're shocked, they're terrified, and at the same time happy because their child is woken up out of the grave at his funeral. So they're happy, and he wakes up and sits up in that casket. And when he sits up in that casket, he asks for a cup of water because he was thirsty. And this is a Spanish country, and I don't know what country this was right now, but I saw this a few years ago when he woke up and he asked for that water. If y'all just think back to the Bible, I don't know if it was a little girl Tabitha in the Bible, and I'll have to look that up because I can't remember exactly right now. But when the little girl Tabitha died in the Bible, Anthony, if you could, while we're talking about that, can you look up where a little girl died in the Bible, and when she woke up, Jesus brought her back to life, and when he brought her back to life, he told them to give her a glass of water, give her some water. What I want to say to y'all right now on this, and this is not for clickbait, this is not for clicks and likes, this is me telling y'all something right now because I'm getting ready to tell y'all something that's very scary and that's very real and true to me. When I spoke on near-death experiences a few minutes ago, near-death experiences is when you die. Your spirit leaves your body. If you're a Christian and you're listening to this right now, whether you're a Christian or not, then you take your own religious belief, and if you want to say it's another state of being, then whatever it is to you, then that's what it is to you. But when your spirit leaves your body, your spirit is more real than anything else. We are physical beings, we are spiritual beings having a human experience or having a physical experience. So when you have that scripture that says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, or when you are absent from the body, like when Jesus was on the cross, like they said, he gave up the ghost. When you give up the ghost, that means your spirit came out. Now, near-death experience, you have people who also sometimes talk about they went through this tunnel, or they saw a light, or they saw this light being that appeared to them, or now those are the more positive experiences when they're death experiences, and that's the ones that you usually want to hear. A message that you got when you got to that other side and when you went through that light, and then these open arms were open up to you with this spiritual being, whether it is Jesus for you or whatever it is. I'm a Christian, so like I said, as a Christian, for the ones who've had these experiences, then when you get to that place and you get there, and then that being tells you, turn back, because your time is not up yet. You still have work to do. Now, Is that work that you have to do because you didn't complete that job? Is it because you have not done certain things? There's a scripture I looked up a few minutes ago while Josh was talking about this, and I'm not trying to make this one of those things, y'all, to where I'm trying to like minister to you guys. I'm telling you this because it's important, and I'm telling you this for a reason. You can take it or leave it. But when Josh was talking, and he said a few minutes ago about forgiveness, and a lot of people during some of those supernatural experiences or near-death experiences that died and came back, and when they got there, they were told that they were given a chance to go back because they had not completed their task. Basically, they were supposed to forgive. Matthew 6:15 says, "But if you do not forgive others," that means nurturing your hurt and anger with the result that it interferes with your relationship with God. That means bitterness and resentment. And you build that up within yourself to a point that you will not forgive others. It goes on to say, then your Father will not forgive your trespasses. That means he will not forgive your sins. So if you die in sin, and you die without that forgiveness, your sins are not forgiven you. You can't go on and think that you can continue to do things to people and just think that when you go on in that afterlife, so people say, well, there's no sins that aren't forgiven. Well, Matthew 6:15 says otherwise. Dying or being in another supernatural or spiritual state of being is like it's not just a state of the mind. Some people say that hell is not real. Some people say we live in hell right here on earth right now. So for the people that believe we're living hell on earth right now, this is what I have to say, and everybody has their own right to believe whatever they believe about it. But here's my thing on it, and this is something I always like to say. When you go through life and its hardships, people are going through life every day dealing with children dying from cancer, people dying from AIDS, people dying from complications from diabetes, dementia, and everything else under the sun. And when we go through these different hardships that we go through in life, a lot of the times when we go through this, we will question God and ask why. Why would a loving God allow these different types of things to happen to a person? And because of that, that will cause a lot of people a lot of times to not believe in God and refuse to worship God anymore because of that. And that's why a lot of the times people don't realize a lot of atheists started off as Christian because of that anger that you have for God. You decide, I'm not going to worship or praise you anymore because why would you allow that? Not understanding that the people who in biblical times also went through those same things. And I'm trying to wrap this up and make it short. But I just want to let y'all know, like, there's something else to this. But if we say that hell here, if this is hell on earth, because we deal with drug addiction, we deal with wars, we deal with anger, murder, rape, and everything else under the sun. Imagine even if you don't believe that hell is real, let's just take that as a consideration. If you don't believe that hell is real, if you believe in another life, if your spirit leaves your body when you leave and go somewhere else, who wants to live? If you feel like this is hell here on earth, who wants to live this? I'm going to call it a minuscule hell on earth, and I'm not making it minor and act like it doesn't matter because we are human beings, and this is hard, but they say he won't put any more on us than we can bear. But a lot of times it is more than we can bear in the human mind, and it doesn't make sense to us. But who wants to live that hell here on earth, to go on to suffer in eternity? And what Josh was saying a few minutes ago, in a lake of fire, burning, fire and brimstone. Some people say, well, your spirit cannot burn forever. Well, what if that spirit that's burning forever, you're looking at it from a human standpoint, a natural fire, like I can light a match or take a cigarette lighter and start a fire to burn the physical body. But what if that is a spiritual fire that can burn the spirit? What if those demons and those spirits that people talk about, that you see in your room, that black shadow figure, shadow man, not just shadow man, but like Dogman, Bigfoot, if they are not just cryptids, if they are some interdimensional entity or being, hellhounds or anything like that, these spirits can manifest themselves to you and show you as whatever they want to show themselves to you as. But who wants to deal with that forever in all eternity through a lake of fire and deal with that torment forever? What if we're right and you're wrong? just take that in consideration. So when Josh is talking about his mother in this situation, I got emotional about it because that is a human being. Number one. Number two, that is his mother. I have a mother. Each one of you that's out there in the chat right now, no matter what your spiritual belief is, you have a mother too. And so it hurt my heart to think that, like, out of all the things that have been said, whether it was about Josh's mom or whether it was about anybody's mother, like, that is your mother. You love them. Like, you might not have the best mother. Your mother may not have brought you up right, whatever the situation. But at the end of the day, I don't want to think about somebody being in torment like that and then knowing for a fact that outside of near-death experiences that deal with being dead because you don't have a pulse, because you actually lost breath, because your spirit actually came out of your body, because you no longer have a heartbeat. But there's other ways also, too, for your spirit to come out of your body, and we call that out-of-body experiences. You can have those through lucid dreaming. You can have those through astral projection, and you can have those through sleep paralysis, where your spirit leaves your body and you can still see your body laying there on the couch or on the bed or whatever you're doing. You can actually have those experiences and still leave your body, but they say that there's a silver cord, and that silver cord is attached to the body. And if that silver cord becomes severed while you're in that dream state, or while you're in that state of astral projection, or while you're in that state of sleep paralysis, then you die because your spirit has become disconnected. And while you're astral projection and you're going out like the movie, what was the movie? Insidious. And they called it the further. Well, you call it the further in that movie. It doesn't matter what you call it. When you go too far away, when your spirit is absent from your body, your spirit is open to another spirit being able to come into your body and possess you and take over your body. Whether that movie was stupid or goofy to y'all, that movie was trying to show a message. What I want to say about that, and this is going to be the last thing I say about this right now, but I just want y'all to understand it hurts, it's painful, and no matter what, people make jokes about different things. It's not funny. To wish hell on anybody, even your worst enemy. You better make it right with God. You better have forgiveness. We don't want to keep going at war with anybody on any term, because at the end of the day, humans can say, well, we want to keep this war going. I don't like Josh. I don't like Bettina. I don't like Mike from Abnormal Investigations. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. We are humans. We don't always feel like that God's timing is our timing, and sometimes we feel like, and I've said this before jokingly, sometimes God don't act fast enough. Sometimes God don't get on it fast enough. And so because of that, when we feel like that God is not avenging us fast enough, that means that we want to take vengeance at that standpoint. I want to avenge myself. I want to go out there and I want to do something about that. But at the end of the day, that anger, bitterness, and resentment that we build up, at the end of the day, my soul, my spirit is more important, because the way right now, like Josh talks about this all the time, that anger, bitterness, and resentment, people don't realize that stress, we call that dis-ease, causes disease. That causes us to have heart problems, that causes us to have high blood pressure. Stress causes high blood pressure. We go through these different things, and people don't realize that arthritis, all these different things come from that. So all I'm trying to say, and I'm not trying to make this a sermon to y'all right now, but all I'm trying to say is that when it comes to different things, if y'all have ever seen the movie 13 Ghosts, the jackal in that movie, Google it, look up the image for the jackal in 13 Ghosts. And I'm telling y'all this for a reason, and I'm going to shut this down because I'm going to let it go back to Josh. I had an out-of-body experience a few months ago. I didn't die, but this was during sleep paralysis. And during that sleep paralysis experience that I had that night a few months ago, we all live in sin. Nobody's perfect. But during that sleep paralysis experience that I had this one particular night, my spirit came out of my body. I could see my body laying in the bed down below. My spirit was hovering up on the ceiling with my back to the ceiling, looking down at my body laying on the bed. Before I actually realized that I was in sleep paralysis, I actually realized that there was another presence in the room. I could feel all that. Then I realized, okay, well, I'm not in my body right now. I can see my body laying on the bed. I've had sleep paralysis since the time I was 24. different times, there are different experiences that happen with this. But on this particular night, I'm going to say that this was the worst episode of sleep paralysis that I ever had. That I already knew hell was real already. But again, y'all look up the movie 13 Ghosts, type in the jackal. The jackal is what I saw that night, but take that cage out from around its head. My spirit is hovering on the ceiling. I'm looking at my body laying on the bed. And then while I'm hovering up there at the ceiling, that thing is a few inches, literally like 2 or 3 inches away from my face. Elongated grin across its face, that evil grin with that elongated smile across its face, sharp, jagged teeth. It had that dingy gown on, that black, scraggly hair. And that thing, when that moment, I started to pray, and I started to say the Lord's Prayer. I started to pray. And as I started to pray and rebuke it and ask it to go, that thing spoke to me telepathically, and it spoke to me in my mind, and it basically said, I'm this close to getting your soul, a few inches away from my face. And while I'm praying, as I'm praying, because during sleep paralysis, you can't move, you can't scream, you can't get up, you can't end it like you would a regular dream. Like, I don't like the way this dream's going. Let me wake up right now because I don't like this. It's not like that during sleep paralysis. Your physical mouth, you can't move, you can't scream, you can't get up, but your spirit can still pray. While my spirit was praying, that demon, because it was a demon, the jackal, I'm going to call it that because it's exactly what it looked like. It spoke to me telepathically a few inches away from my face, and it started to mock my prayer. It took over my voice as I was praying. It was no longer my voice that was saying that prayer. Any of the movies y'all ever heard with that demonic voice or whatever, how it kind of, the craziest part about it, it was like, at the same time, while it took over my voice and started praying and mocking it in a laughing type tone, mocking it, it was two voices going on. It was praying at the same time, taking over my voice, mocking my prayer, and at the same time laughing simultaneously. So 2 vocal cords coming out of it at the same time. And then this thing said, I'm this close to getting your soul. It took my spirit from one edge of that ceiling and dragged it from one end of the ceiling to the other end. And I remember my spirit, and I know this is crazy, but at that time I was thinking, I hope the ceiling fan was on. So I was thinking in my mind, I hope it doesn't drag it to the ceiling fan because the ceiling fan is going to chop me up and I'm just going to be dead. But then I don't know why I thought that, but I did. But it kept dragging me back and forth. And then it took my spirit, threw it down on the bed, dragged it back up, continuing to do this. And at this point, when I realized, when I was praying, the spirit basically bust out laughing at me and said, you ain't got no power. And after it told me I had no power, I realized I'm dealing with a stronger demon right now in this moment. And I prayed. I said, God, send Michael the archangel, send your whole arsenal, because right now my prayers are not working. Please, God. And for what, at the end of that, I don't remember. I can't tell you how that ended, but I do know that in that moment, the powers that be, God, the Holy Spirit, the Most High came in, whether it was his angels or whatever. He ended that episode. My spirit went back into my body. And when I woke up in the bed, I got up immediately, turned all the lights on in the room, went through my house. I had to pray and rebuke. And at that time, I had a lot of anger and rage and furiousness because of unforgiveness, being mad about things that were going on, especially things that was going on, especially like the stuff that's been going on with me and Josh. As far as everything that's going on in this situation right now that he's talking about tonight, and I'm not going to take over. That's all I wanted to say, just to let y'all know that you have to forgive. We cannot keep going on with this. If you care about your salvation, if you care about where your spirit spends eternity, it's real. If you don't believe in it, then this does not apply to you. And if you want to think that you're going to go to the grave and your spirit is just there and you cease to exist, then you better hope then that's actually what happens. But if you're wrong, then it's going to be too late at that point to come back from that. So that's why I got emotional about it, because like at the end of the day, no matter how much you hate Josh, no matter how much you hate me, at the end of the day, we're both human beings. And at the end of all that, it is not right to wish hell on anybody. And that's all I have to say on it.
It's pretty powerful.
Pretty scary.
I had to speak on that.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I think a lot of people needed to hear that too.
Yeah.
It's important.
They probably don't do the same thing.
A lot of people probably have. People don't realize that when it comes to the spirit, like I said before, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. Why do you think that some of us can astral project? Josh said he can do it at will. I can't do it at will. There's people out there on YouTube sending out videos or whatever, teaching people how to do so. But then even with that, there's gateway drugs. You got DMT, you got salvia, and all these synthetic forms of marijuana and synthetic forms of drugs and stuff like that that take you to a state of mind where you can actually... What do y'all think? Ayahuasca and peyote and stuff like that, the medicine men, they're able to contact the spirit realm through doing such. Witch doctors and stuff like that. These things, your mind already, when they say the third eye is open, your third eye, what is it, DMT? Does your body not already naturally make DMT?
Yeah, when you're dying,
Yeah.
people say that. One of the things I wanted to say about what you've told me this story before, and I was enthralled by what you had told me. And I'm going to finish the story we were talking about with the lady that moved to Delaware. We will talk about that again, but not tonight. We're going to be moving on. When you and I talked, Bettina, about the demon that you saw, the thing that happened to you, when was that? That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
That was...
No, not really
I
a
know
long
it was
time
before
ago.
the conference, though.
Yeah,
Probably, I'm going to say around August.
Yeah, it wasn't a long time ago. I'm
July
thinking of
or
your
August.
Encounters.
July or August with
Yeah.
the sleep paralysis, but I've dealt with that since I was 24. I've already had probably 4 or 5 different sleep paralysis experiences. At least 3 or 4, I'm going to say 3 or 4 experiences with sleep paralysis this year, and 2 with the shadow man at the apartment.
Yeah. And what people don't understand and what they don't grasp is that a lot of this stuff happens to them because of the situations that they're in. When you're spiritually weak, these things can move in on you. So you have to be strong at all times to repel it. How do you do that? Well, one of the things you can do, and I hate to say this on New Year's Eve, is be sober. I know it's New Year's Eve and everybody's like, oh, we were going to go get smashed. Well, I think, though, everything in moderation to a degree, but I think doing a lot of things that inebriate you is going to not be a good
Definitely
thing.
opens you up.
Author and illustrator L. Pierre B.J. Moore says buffering badly and videos blurry.
It's fine on my end.
It's found on this
Yeah,
end,
it's
too.
fine. Maybe try
Ask them
refreshing.
to refresh their feed, Josh.
Yeah, refresh it.
Yeah, when people get blackout drunk and they don't remember what they did, like I think that they just like that's what that is. Their spirit is kind of checked out. Something else took over temporarily.
Sailor Nemesis has a good point. We have the power through Christ to do this. Yes, we do. We have the life and breath and spark of God in us. We're able to create with that. You can be evil too. You can deceive and lie and do all kinds of bad things with that too. That doesn't mean that you're... hold on 1 second.
Yeah, to add to a point that you were making earlier, Wolf, like about how like whenever people die and when they clinically die, and they have these visions, you know, of hell, of the afterlife, how it's like dismissed because it's dismissed as a chemical physical phenomenon.
Imbalance.
Yeah, but that's kind of short-sighted, and it's really like closed-minded and not very intelligent to think that, because just because there is a physical aspect, that there is a physical part of a phenomenon, doesn't mean that there's not a spiritual one to it as well. Like it doesn't make sense. It's like
Yeah, it's not either or. I mean, it's basically two sides
Like
of
the
the same coin.
yeah, like the DMT being dumped into the brain is just that's the physical side of something that actually is more than just physical.
Yeah.
So it's kind of That's why, like, I don't believe that like when people take hallucinogens, that everything they see is just a straight up hallucination. That it's not there.
I agree
It
with you.
opens you up.
Like the chemical reactions that those things do to the brain, they like yes, it's a physical thing that happens, but the they're seeing like spiritual phenomena as a result of that physical change.
So you're trying to tell me that Spider-Man was in my room feeding me Cocoa Puffs for real?
I don't know what you're on.
I'm going to say that I agree with you on that, Anthony, 100%. I feel like that when they say gateway drugs, when we're talking about DMT, ayahuasca, peyote, in some cases marijuana, you got people on, what is it, salvia, crystal meth, and I can't remember that other drug that was causing people to, like, flip out, the ones who you had people running around.
Spice.
Yeah, running around naked in the streets and
Yeah,
stuff like that. The
that's
ones who police came to like apprehend them and try to shut those situations down. Like no matter what, if they tased them, those people, it took 5 or 6, it took 5 or 6 different police officers to whatever to try to take control of them. And they had this supernatural, superhuman strength. It was not affecting them at all. And it didn't affect them because they had that supernatural strength. Whether you want to call it a demon or whether you want to call it the jinn, I don't care what you call it. This is not a debate about semantics. Like whatever you want to call it, then call it what you want. But there are other things like when you go outside. I'm not saying like, we come under demonic attack every day. But just because you don't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Every time we go outside, every time that you're going through your everyday reality, you have a supernatural or spiritual power that's going on in the air around you. There's interdimensional beings, there's supernatural and invisible beings that are around us all the time that we just can't see, but they're there when there's things going on like what we've gone through with this. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to drag it out because I want Josh to talk about what he's saying about the encounters he was sharing. But when you have an attack or a spiritual attack or a war going on, just like we had beef with different groups or whatever before for the last few months, that a regular human being, like as we are, we're all human beings, you want that to end. You get tired of it. But when it's driven to a point that no matter what you do, no matter how much you pray, and it doesn't stop and it continues to go on and on and on and on, God said that he's not the author of confusion. He's not the author of people. He does not want you to go back and forth and war about differences in opinion and stuff like that. If you have an issue with your brother or your sister, then we're commanded to go to a point to go and make peace with that person. And if you go and make peace with them and go and ask them for forgiveness and they refuse to, the Bible says to brush the dust off your shoulders. At least you've done right at that point by trying to make right with that person. But it's not of God to continue to go on to attack somebody. So that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to come to a place right now because as a Christian, if you say that you're a person who believes in God, then that's going to show through your actions.
Who's that?
That's that
Did you drink out of it?
sparkling water. Yeah, I had a couple of sips out of
Because
that.
it's about to spill.
It is not about to
It
spill.
looks like it's moving.
It's been like that whole
I
time.
think it's about to spill.
You're trying to be funny.
You're looking over there, I'm like, whoa, it's going to spill.
No, my thought process, I was thinking while I was talking, but go ahead, Josh.
Messing with you.
Don't talk too much.
No, you're doing good. You did. That's why you're here. You're here to talk
that
and
was
do
great.
good. We got to.
I'm more alert.
Tomorrow we got to record, so we have a show for to come up. You guys, we went out last night to the Devil's Backbone. I'm going to switch up gears here, all right? We're switching it up. Okay, so we went to the Devil's Backbone, and Bettina screamed because we saw a deer. The deer was holding a gun, and it did come at us in a horribly terrifying way. That is her excuse. She said it had a gat. I saw it. It was, I told her in this area there's only bats with gats, not deer. Not deer for fear. But no, there was a deer on the side of the road, and Bettina, you said it stood up, right?
Yes, it did.
Now, we were on the Devil's Backbone. Now, that's what it's called, the Devil's Backbone. And we were right there in the heart of it when she saw this. So I don't doubt that could be possible. We get lots of not deer stories out of that area. So I went back and I decided to look into it this morning. I got up bright and early, and while everybody else was probably sleeping, What you doing while you sleeping? That's what you're doing. So I got on the computer and I looked it up, and we did have 2 stories that were from not deer, from the Devil's Backbone. Now, interesting, one of them was right there near the area where I had an encounter with what I believe was a possibly purgatorial spirit, where we gave it a ride. And that was me and my brother and a few other of our friends. That really happened, okay? I don't know what that is. Okay, you can go back and look on the stories from the Devil's Backbone on the show. There's some of the earlier episodes. I think there's like 4, 5, and 6 or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. One of the stories I got, and I'm going to tell you this, involved what looked like, and I couldn't believe this when I saw it, because I guess when I saw that it was from the Devil's Backbone, I just filed it away. There was a guy who gave me a story. We'll start with him. His name is Andres, and he's from Argentina. And he had heard me talking about Argentina. When he came up here for a wedding in San Antonio, he got an Airbnb down in the other side of San Marcos, right there near the river, a really pretty spot. And he was telling me about it, and he said that people had told him to go out to the scenic overlook out there on Ranch Road 12, which leads into Ranch Road 32 or Highway 32. And I said, yeah, I know where you're at. It's the Devil's Backbone. And he says the scenic overlook is really pretty. He's like, you can see the Arroyo Canyons out there. It's really nice. He's like, and we're out there, and we hear what sounds like a scream. Now, granted, he was there with his wife and his oldest son, who was 21 years old. And he's like, we hear what sounds like a scream from a person that's down in those canyons. And he said it echoed very loudly, and my wife freaked out. She freaked out. He said that she was like, what was that? And his oldest son said, that sounded like an Indian, like a Native American, like somebody screaming, like a war cry. And his immediate reaction, this is before he knew me or anything about the shows, was years ago. He was like, no way. He's like, you're tripping. He's like, it's dark out here. He didn't know about it being haunted. He knew nothing about that. But what happened to them was really bizarre. The scream turned into a screech, and it sounded like a person imitating an owl. Then it sounded like a wolf howl. Then it just sounded like a whooping call. All of which he found out later on was what he thinks were Apache war cries. Now, if you think back, if you remember the show we did with, it was called Fight for Your Life. That one was, the guy that told me that story was very impactful to me, because it was like, we talked about that one again with Eric Palacios when he was on the show. It was on Highway 29. Was that what it is?
Yeah, it's 29.
29. Now that's over here in Leander, in between Leander and Georgetown. It's north of Austin. The area where he's at, south of Austin, but it's all the same terrain, And so what happened with that guy, his name was Franklin, I believe that was his name. He was homeless at one time, and he wandered around. Now, I mentioned in passing that he had heard one time when he was camping on the other side of Blanco, where he was at was about 6-7 miles from where that overlook was. And he was camping out in the middle of nowhere. And I told him, I said, you're lucky that all you heard was some Apache war cries, that you didn't see something or something attack you. And I'm being dead serious. Now, there's a lot of people there that living out on the backbone now. It's not like it used to be. There's a lot more people, a lot more habitation. We drove all over it last night. We were down Purgatory Road and some other spots. And my wife put on the episode of Unsolved Mysteries that is about the Devil's Backbone. But, of course, Bettina, Maddie, Anthony, Tony all went to sleep.
I was already.
No, I was resting
The
my
sleeping
eyes.
sickness got
Hold
me.
on.
Y'all were out. Y'all were asleep. I looked back and said, damn, they're all asleep.
I was way asleep before that.
Doesn't do
right?
any good to do favors for these people.
I didn't even know you
Let
put that show on.
My eyes were just
Don't do
closed for a long
no
time.
favors for these people. I'm telling you right now, don't do no good, folks. I'm just telling you.
Josh was scared, y'all. Josh,
You know what?
terrified.
Hand the camera back to me.
Screaming when
You know what, Anthony? you know what? Y'all was like, don't put us in this. We don't want to see no dog, man. We don't. What? Who was scared?
You?
You.
Listen,
Me, Anthony, and Wolf did not care.
y'all was scared.
We were not.
We didn't scream.
They said
I was
The
very.
women scream. You did too.
Wait,
you
did I?
too. Yeah.
Yes.
but you know what?
I do not recall.
The moment I put my head back and closed my eyes, that's when you started screaming.
I was trying to go to sleep, and y'all kept screaming.
And we went back, and it was a
I was screaming.
I will say this: if you see a deer stand up on its hind legs, you might scream. Okay,
And Josh didn't tell y'all that right. Y'all put me on there real quick, so I need to tell.
you're on.
Josh didn't tell that right. We
always
was
tell
driving
everything
down
right.
through there, and
Tell
Josh
everything right.
and Nelly was like, "Don't yell that,
Fake news.
Bettina."
Fake news.
I wanted. See, me and Josh and Nelly, we didn't see the Dogman before, but they haven't, and so in that.
Why would you want them to? They don't want to see it.
She's like, oh, this is I'm
But
doing it
Maddie's
for
like,
you.
I'm good. I've lived my whole life up to this point not seeing
But I'm
one.
afraid on it though, and I
consult me about whether or not I.
Trauma together is trauma forever. All right, guys?
I prayed on it, and I said, God, like, but
my
at the
gosh.
same time,
You were
let
praying for it.
Let it be safe. Let nothing happen to us. There's
Yeah, but
safety in
that's not
numbers.
something to pray for.
The dog man that finds us is the trauma that binds us. All right, guys?
You know what? Y'all needed to, but see, we was all together though, and I'd already prayed on it, so we was gonna be all right regardless. Now, when
Don't you put that evil on
when
me,
we
Ricky
came
Bobby.
around that corner, like I just got through that. The words had just got through coming out of my mouth, and that's just right when I said it. Like we're driving, Josh driving. I'm not really. Nobody's ever thinking that you're gonna see nothing. Now it may not have been anything. It may have just been a deer. But right.
I've had experiences out there, so I knew there was stuff out there.
Well, before we actually got real close up on it. As we were approaching it, we seen those eyes. We seen those tall.
My
ears.
wife said that it even looked like the way it was like it was trying to hide around the bush and then look around.
Did you not see that?
I'm so used to seeing weird stuff that I don't even think nothing of. It doesn't scare me anymore.
It ducked its head back a little bit, and those eyes were shining.
Like I don't even get scared anymore. Honestly, I don't.
The ears was real tall on top of his head, y'all. Now let's just say, I'm not one of those people that try to make everything that's natural be supernatural. But in that moment, what was weird to me was that yes, it did duck its head back out of sight, and as Josh further closely approached, right as he's like getting ready to pass that bush, then. At that moment, as he's approaching it, the thing stood up, and the ears was tall. I mean, I thought
It was weird.
Was it not?
It was weird.
The headlights hit it. I said, Josh, I had already told you.
You told me to put the high beams on. So did my wife. Y'all were backseat driving like always. Look, here's the
saw
thing.
that?
Okay, look. Put the camera on me. I didn't see anything. Okay.
saw it.
No, I saw a deer. Y'all saw something.
I didn't see anything.
You
Okay.
wasn't sure. You said, let me.
I
get back
wasn't
away.
sure what I saw. I saw something move really quick. Okay, I'm one of those people that I don't claim an encounter unless I have to be like, I can't just be going around saying I saw all kinds of stuff because I need to know that what I saw was there. Okay, I want to believe what I saw was a normal deer with green eyes. I think the eyes were green.
They were.
Okay, so that was weird. That part was weird. I will say this. But when you're the captain of the ship and you got 6 panicky people, me included to be 5 panicky people, I'm not.
5. I was trying to sleep.
Was anybody screaming during this, Josh?
You should know because it was you.
And
You, Nelly, and Maddie.
We was panicking.
Yeah, the women.
We was panicking.
The women folk were panicking.
And we had them scared, y'all, because they was like, you know what? Josh had to make sure that it was not something else. He had to make sure when the dog man, Josh actually got halfway down the road, turned back around, and I'm like, Josh, no, please don't go.
Now, I will say what I saw on the other side of the road. I saw a deer carcass on the other side of the road that looked like it had a bite taken out of its haunch.
Did you see that too?
I saw the deer.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you right now, I saw that, and that is what I saw that was weird. We turned back around. The deer had gone behind some bushes.
Was it dead,
You
the one you
remember
sathat you're talking about with
Yeah.
the bite taken out of it?
Mm-hmm.
You remember when we were driving down that road, or I don't know if it was that road, with Laura and Chris?
Oh, yeah.
And then we were driving, we just see that old lady walking down.
Oh, my gosh. That was
She
not
would've
near
had
the
a heart
property. That's where
attack.
we're moving to.
She would have had a heart
You're talking about
attack
over there
if she
by,
saw
yeah,
that.
that was, oh, my gosh. That was so weird. Man, okay, there's some weird stuff. But what I will say is when we were out at the Overlook, we got out and we walked around and it was dark and whatever. And I heard this. I know I heard this because I was about to get back in the. Y'all were all already in the vehicle like a bunch of chickens because I'm not scared. I was outside eating my Southwest wrap, which was literally nothing but it was the most horrific thing of the night. It was just lettuce, corn and black beans. It was gross. It was very bad, and
There's
it
supposed to
really
be chicken in there.
that was there wasn't no chicken. It was the most traumatic thing of the night for me. I threw it away. Okay, I did what I could. It was awful. And I'm gonna tell you about it again. It tasted terrible. But I was standing there getting into the car or the SUV, and I heard what sounded like a screeching, screaming. It sounded like a person down in the canyon. And then I told you guys about the story that Andres had given me. Now, this guy, what he told me was, he said, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're out there. And I went back to the house, and I said, I got to find this story. Because I remember him giving it to me back in like June or July. So here's what happened. He says, me and my wife, we hear this with my son. He's like, and we hear it again and again, and it gets louder. Okay, they get in their vehicle, and they go to take off. As they're driving down the road, they see a deer running alongside their vehicle, come up on its hind legs, take 3 or 4 steps, and then go over it like a man. Now, I didn't communicate with this person on the phone. I just read what he sent me. And I asked him, I messaged him back in June or July, I can't remember which one it was, and he messaged me back. And he said, yes, it transformed itself more like a man. And then it got back down when it jumped over the fence. So that was the conclusion to that story. Now, he said nothing else happened to him. That's the end of his story. But what happened to, now, how I met this guy is pretty interesting, and y'all have witnessed me talking to people now. You know how I get stories, and I just talk to people. Every single person, I just talk to them. Somebody eventually will give you a story. Now, this is how my brother used to date. He would basically hit on every woman within a 100-mile radius, and eventually, carpet bombing, yeah. Eventually, someone goofy enough would be like, okay, I'll give you a shot. You're brazen and uncouth, whatever. And then he would go out on a date with these women. In fact, I'll tell you a really brief story about this, kind of funny. It was, we were at Applebee's, and I don't go there, but I used to years ago to drink. And I don't know why. I think it was just because our friend John wanted to go there all the time. And so here goes my brother hitting on the waitress, and he says some ridiculous, outlandish stuff, and she's just like, oh my God, like all, offended and acting all indignant. And I basically just said, oh my God, this woman's going to spit in her food now. Well, 2 days later, I come home, and here she is coming out of the room with my brother, and they're joking and laughing, and I'm like,
What?
aren't you the indignant waitress? Because I talked about this with Ken and Ann last night. I was telling them the story because Ken was talking about his friend that got slapped by a waitress.
Oh my God.
And his friend, Ken was telling me his friend, it was Ken Gerhardt, and he said his friend got slapped for hitting on some waitress or whatever. But and then we had a great dinner at Pico de Gallo, which is a really good place. And we had the mariachis play 3 songs, and I didn't get La Bamba. But that's okay, because years ago I annoyed my stepmother by paying them at Texas Station to play La Bamba 10 times in a row. We got to 4, and she went and grabbed the manager. She's very Karen.
I think all the mariachis around kind of talked and said that you're not allowed anymore La Bamba.
Yeah, they didn't give me La Bamba, but they gave us a lot of good songs, though. It was fun.
It was fun. Ken started singing.
Yeah, Ken sang. It was
Yes, he did.
really cool. And so Ken told me about that, and I told him about what happened to my brother. Well, this is very much like what I do with people with the paranormal. But as y'all have witnessed, and as Clough told me this morning, he was like impressed. This is how I get stories. I talk to people about this all the time. Anthony, Tony, y'all see this all the time. I do it every day. Yeah. We went to Dutch Brothers and got stories. The guy there is like a barista, and he's like, oh, yeah. And he's sitting there making this stuff and telling us about the UFO. Mm-hmm. It's what happens. You want stories, it's not hard to do. Okay? I don't understand these people talking about how do you get stories. How do you not? Every human being on this planet has something that you can classify as weird, which kind of would make you think that it's really not weird. What we think of as weird is probably normal. And really and truly, the mundane world that we kind of have built and agree on exists is really it's the opposite. So, So here's what I'm going to tell you. I think my brother's in the chat. Did he show? Did he show? He's probably gonna be mad because I gave away his secrets.
Yep, there's Diablo.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
So, no offense, older brother. And you know what? Hey, it's a compliment. Clough thought you were the younger brother. Clough said, yeah, I thought you was your younger brother. So, yeah. But anyway, it's because he's way more immature, if that's possible, because I'm pretty damn immature myself, as Maddie and Bettina can attest to. They went to San Antonio with me. They saw how immature I am. But hey, do I not get things done?
Yes, sir.
I do, right? When I needed the park, we got parking, right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I got it. And
He
when
made
you
stuff
needed,
happen that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yep. And then you need to use the bathroom, and I had to talk to old Larry and get him. To get
Yes.
He was aggravated, but I had to tell him, look, she's got a small bladder. She was born with a condition called baby bladder syndrome. It's when you're born with the bladder this big. But
Oh
the
my
cameraman's
God.
like, it's this baby bladder like that, and then it doesn't ever grow. And he's like, oh, that poor girl. I said, yes, I know. And then my wife's like, she's our daughter.
Because I look so much like you.
We're very disappointed in her. We adopted her from Nicaragua. We're good people. We're very good people. We have a show if you're interested.
It's something wrong with
Now
y'all.
he's over there going like, man, those people be lying. Larry, sorry, man. We were just messing with you. Now, we were joking with him, and he knew. But no, seriously. It's really, really, really easy if you just know how to talk to people and give them respect. And you give respect, you get respect. That's how it works, right? Tony's the talker, too. When I'm with Tony, we always talk to people. We get some stories out of people, man. And it's not hard if you know how to do it. If
You
know how
can
to-
practice. I mean, there's little things like, Anthony, as everybody here knows, has a bit of a stuttering problem. So one of the things I told him when no, this is for real. Back when we were starting podcasting, I mean, it's not a hidden, it's not a secret.
Him right now more
Can
than
you
anything.
hold on a second, please? Before everybody starts attacking me.
Y'all are the ones who
Jeez.
made it like, oh, he's cracking on him.
She's doing
No.
she's messing with y'all.
I'm
getting to a
I'm
point.
messing with y'all. I'm just playing with y'all.
What I was trying to say was that Anthony, when he first started doing podcasting, what I told him was that, just start by talking to yourself in the mirror. It's as easy as that. And then slowly just start giving people compliments. And once you do that, you'll get used to talking to people.
He hasn't figured out the compliment part
He
yet.
hasn't figured out how to talk to himself either, I think.
Like, I always compliment people on their jewelry.
It's easy.
And women, they like that. They're like, oh, you noticed my jewelry. They're like, my husband didn't even know I wear jewelry.
Hilarious.
And because women, they want to be noticed. They want, and don't lie. You don't got to lie. Pick out something about someone and make them feel good. Tell them the goodness. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to start flirting and
It doesn't have to be
whatever.
weird.
Yeah, like the girl at the thing with the lettuce into the parking the area. My wife tried to tease me. She's like, you flirted with her. No, I didn't. I just asked her if she could do anything for us. And she said, y'all go ahead. She was very nice. I want to believe it's because I'm handsome, charming. Yeah,
But those are beside the point.
People listening are checking out now. Let me start talking. Okay, but the point is that you can do this if you really want to. If it's something that you really want, and it's not bad, it's not a bad thing. You can will it into existence. You have that ability. Like I said, if it's not a bad thing, and you're not willing something bad on someone, because you will pay the price for that. Trust me. Somebody said, what the hell, in the mirror? 86, yes, in the mirror. That is exactly what you do. You talk in the mirror. But I can tell you this.
It's not a joke. I mean,
It's not a joke, no. But I can tell you this. When someone gives you a story, okay, they're bearing a piece of themselves to you, right? So you have to be respectful of that. So many people, they'll get a story from somebody and they never talk to them again, because I hear that all the time. They're like, I gave my story to this person. I tried to message them. No, they don't care. They got what they wanted. I don't do that. I want you to become a part of the family. I want to have the biggest family on YouTube. I don't mean to have a bunch of listeners. I just mean to have a big family, because we can help each other. Can you imagine the community that we're building where we care about each other, and it becomes more than just a show? It's like a meeting place where we're all friends and we're sitting here on New Year's Eve having a good time. 440 people here talking. Thank you for that donation, Gary Reed. What does he say?
Says, if I ever discover a new element, I will name it Jesus, so that academia will forever have to admit that Jesus is both real and scientifically proven.
That's a good one. Thank you for that donation, Gary Reed. Thank you to everyone else who's donated tonight. We appreciate it. We know that money's probably tight right now because after Christmas, I'm not expecting a whole lot, but I appreciate everybody who's helping out. Here's the thing. Getting back to this Apache war cry thing. Now, this is something that when I was introduced to this guy, I met him because of a guy that was a security guard that likes to go, what is the burger place called? The one down there on the drag? That we like?
Moe's?
Moe's. Mighty Moe's. So, was it Mighty Moe's? What's it called?
It might be my
Something Moe's. anyways, we there's a burger place they like to go to. And I went in there one day, and there's always a security guard in there at that time of night. He's always in there kind of sleeping in the corner. So I went in there, I was waiting for my food or waiting for their food, and I actually there's a Mediterranean place there, and I'll get to the point. So I was eating my Mediterranean without carbs, trying to eat, and it's really good. And I look over, and he sees me sitting there eating, and I'm wearing the uniform because I had just gone to check on a site. And he says, "Oh, you're a security guard." I said, "Yeah, I have a security business." And this guy introduced himself. He's got a really good job down there, and he makes about $3 more per hour than I'm able to pay, you know. So I told him, I said, "That's a pretty good gig. You might want to hang on to it." Well, he's been down there for a few years. And he's got a sweet deal with those guys because he'll come in there and help them out in between shifts. The guy's a workaholic. He works 2 different jobs, 8 hours at one, 8 hours at another. But there's a 2 to 3 hour gap in between depending on the day. So he'll go and hang out in there, and then he'll go to his other shift. So he's a good guy. His name is Bernard. Now, Bernard introduced me to Franklin. He said, I started talking to him. I said, "I have this, and I also have a show," and I gave him my card. Immediately, he starts telling me, he says, "I know a guy who gave me a story about a werewolf type creature. But it was like there was multiples, and they attacked him." That's how I met the guy. And I said, "You're kidding me." He goes, No, for real." He goes, "I think it happened out in Georgetown." And I was like, okay, because that's close to Werewolf Church. So I said, "You know what? That's where I thought it was at, but it wasn't." So he said, "You know what? I'll get in touch with him." And, you know, people say that, and then you might get back with them. They might not. But this guy messaged me pretty quick. And then I said, he goes, "Do you have time for a call?" I said, "Yes." And it was in the evening. And my wife was getting ready to go do something. So that's the opportune time because it takes 2.5 hours approximately to get ready for her to go do something. For Bettina, I found out that it takes 3.5 hours. So anyways, that being said, my wife was getting ready, and so we had a quick chat, you know, and this guy says, "I'm going to start off by telling you this." He goes, "At one time I was homeless." He goes, "I wasn't on drugs and I wasn't drinking all the time." He's like, "I'm an honest guy. I got in some trouble because I got into a fight and I hurt a guy." He's like, "And I was in the Navy," and he had all these other, you know, stuff. He was telling me he did security before he got in trouble, and he worked with Bernard. So he tells me, he says, "I'm going to tell you a story." He goes, "And you may not believe me." He goes, "I got your channel's information and I watched a couple of your episodes. You have a pretty good show." I said, "Thank you." Then he proceeded to tell me that terrifying tale of what happened to him that Anthony labeled "fight for your life." This guy, I've never, you know, doubted him for a second. I mean, he just told the story when I talked to him again the following week. He just told the story again. It's exactly the same. Didn't miss a beat. And he says, "This is the truth. This is what happened to me." He goes, "I'm not going to try and sit up here and say that I'm some badass, that I'm a hero, whatever." He's like, "I just did what any person would do in a situation trying to survive." He goes, "I don't know what these things are. Y'all call it Dogman, whatever, werewolf, whatever." He goes, "I'm not into that kind of stuff. It happened to me." But, you know, the way you meet people, it's almost like, I don't know how you say it, like it's almost like meant to be. So that being said, there was something that he had told me. He had seen a UFO, and he told me about that encounter. I believe I talked a little bit about it on the show. But he had heard when he was out near Blanco, on the other side of the Devil's Backbone, the west side, which is full of dogmen. I believe that. He said, he's like, "I heard what sounded like Apache war cries." He was very specific. He said that he had a friend who was a Lipan who recorded themselves doing these war cries. And he said that I listened to that. And he goes, "And for years, I didn't know what the hell it was that I had heard." He's like, "And then," he's like, "my friend records himself doing this at a powwow." And he's like, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." He goes, "It hit me." Well, that's not what it's not his words, my words, but he said it was like, damn, you know, it hit me. This is what I heard. Now, Franklin is an African American. He has no, like, Native American, whatever. He's not a Native American. He's like, "I just had a friend who was." And he's like, "One night I was camping down in one of those canyons. I walked way down up in there and didn't know exactly where I was at. Now, once he started talking to me about where he was at, then I was like, okay, I know where you were at." And that was not far from a particular area where we've gotten a lot of sightings of weird stuff. Now, of course, last night when y'all were with us, we drove right adjacent to the turnoff to go to Hernandez Ranch. We didn't go down there. because at night I prefer not to go there. These guys have been there, but y'all haven't. So what's crazy is I heard something really weird last night. Now, I was out, like I said, battling with my Southwest wrap from Buc-ee's, and it didn't work out, okay? That's when I heard that. Now, we already have panicky people that were screaming and yelling, so I didn't want to say too much.
I wonder who they were.
Yeah, I wonder who they were. There they are. He showed them. So what ended up happening, I get this story. So Franklin tells me, he says, dude, I heard it in one side of the canyon, and I thought it was just one voice, one person. He says, he thinks, this is like a person doing an animal sound. But then he hears the exact same thing clear across the other side of the canyon. And he's like, and this is coming from another direction. And then there was this echo. And they were doing it back and forth. One time on one side, it would sound like an owl. The other side, it would sound like a wolf. He's like, it was crazy. And it went on and on all night. He woke up the next day. He's like, and I got the hell out of there. I told him, I said, you didn't see anything else? He says, no. I was like, you're lucky. Because you were on the edge of the Devil's Backbone, which is a very haunted place. Bert Wall wasn't joking when he wrote the books about that place. I'm going to tell you something, okay? They don't put it on Unsolved Mysteries for nothing. This Apache war cry thing, I'm telling you, there's something to that, because the second story of a not deer I got was actually even more crazy. It's not a real long encounter. It was somebody that was driving down the road. And it's funny because they happened to be of Lipan descent. And they were driving down the road and they saw something jump over a fence and take off. It was a deer. And it was like, oh, these deer, there's a deer running. Then he catches a quick glimpse of something gray, like go by his truck really quick on the other side and then go across the road on all fours. He's like, when it crossed by my driver's side, he's like, it was on two legs. And it was like a grayish white streak. He's like, and then I look in my rearview mirror. He goes, my brother-in-law is sitting next to me, he's asleep. And he's like, and I see it cross the road. When it crosses the road, it's on all fours. And he's like, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, is that a wolf? Or is that a werewolf? What is that? He said it was skinny, but it had a really big upper body and the lower body was kind of sloped downward. He said it was almost kind of hyena built, but it was more wolf-like in the head. And then the shoulders was almost like a mixture between a wolf and a man. And it ran across the road and it jumped over the fence and pursued the deer. And that's really weird because, like I said, it's sort of a synchronicity. That's the message I got. It wasn't a real long story, but that's the email that we got. So, tell me what you think in the comments.
Real quick, Spilling Tea with Sparky Josh asked, how big is the backbone area? And where is the Devil's Backbone?
That's speculative because where some people say it starts is right outside of San Marcos. And some people say it ends in Blanco, and others say it just kind of keeps going. But the area of the Devil's Backbone, which I believe is near the tavern. You know where the Devil's Backbone Tavern is? Where I took you to last night, where you guys took the pictures and stuff. And it's even got a picture of a little skeleton devil on there, and it says on there, welcome to the Backbone. Okay, that right there, about 2 miles east of that, to about 5 miles from Blanco is what I consider the Backbone, and everything in between there, probably 15 miles to the south. I would say probably 15, 20 miles to the south, 15, 20 miles to the north. That whole region out there is really, it's filled with all these canyons and caves, and that, of course, caves. You got the underground caves. I believe that this is where a lot of this stuff comes from. And I got so many stories out of there because I've talked about it. And of course, like I'd said before, David Weatherly on his birthday, his 60th birthday, he spent at my house talking about the Devil's Backbone. And it's really interesting because we're planning on doing some stuff about that on the Devil's Backbone. Or it's going to be a part of something that me and Weatherly and Eric Palacios from Media Palace are going to do. It's going to be really cool, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be this spring, and we're going to figure out how we're going to do it and hash it out. I have taken the boys and my wife out to Devil's Backbone multiple occasions. I've interviewed people in those taverns and those bars. I've gotten tons of stories from people in person, and I've gotten tons of stories from people who've reached out to me who said, hey, you know, you talked about the Devil's Backbone. I'm sure this show will be no different. Somebody's going to watch it. Of the probably 10,000 views we'll get. And then they'll probably message me about it. I get more if I put it on the podcast. But, yeah, Bert Wall did have some good stories. Yes, Rita, yeah, for sure. And I can tell you this. Scorpion used to work with a guy who lived at the Devil's Backbone. And he would see things, weird stuff all the time. And he introduced us to a couple other people who, you know, and they gave us stories and we put them on the show. And they lived out there. And it became just like commonplace. The area of Purgatory Road, like that whole area right there, that's where I saw a UFO in broad daylight. Y'all were asleep. These two were asleep and my wife was asleep. We were coming back from San Antonio. And I look up and there it is. We were on that road because there's a road called Riverfront Drive from New Braunfels to the Backbone. And it's a really, really pretty drive, but it's deceiving because if you're out there at night and you're driving around, it's creepy. It is creepy. Even people who have gone out there, like one of my friends came from Arkansas, and he's like, what's a really pretty place to go camping? Now, you got to impress somebody from Arkansas. Arkansas is beautiful. It's just Ozarks, you know. And I told him to go out there to go camping, and he did. His name's Kevin. He's a friend of mine. I don't know him that well. I did meet him through the show. And he's like, is it one of these haunted, weird places? And I said, I'm going to be honest with you, yes. He's like, perfect. So he goes out there and he goes camping. Kevin messages me the next day. He says, we had something really weird happen to us out there. He said, we had a knock on our RV in the middle of the night. Me and my wife were just starting to go to sleep. He said, and I hear somebody clear their throat. And I'm thinking, there's a person. I mean, there's people out there, you know, that's camping. You know, maybe somebody needs something. But he's like, it's like 2:50 in the morning. What is this person doing? So he goes and he opens the door and there's nothing there. But he goes, I feel a cold gust of wind blow and it sent chills to my body. He goes, and I remember Josh Turner talking about weird, creepy stories and it's going through my mind. And this was right after Jenna Perry had been on talking about, I think I saw a werewolf. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't far from there. It's actually where she was at was kind of in between that place and the Devil's Backbone. And so he's like, I immediately started thinking, and I closed the door really quick. He goes, and then my wife gets up and she's by, there's a little sink there or whatever in his RV, and she's cleaning the dishes or whatever, and she's like, we're getting ready to go to sleep. He's like, we just couldn't sleep. It was so hard. And my wife looks out the window and she sees this white, pale thing run across the encampment where they're at, and then jump into the water. And she fell backwards, and she's like, she literally fell backwards, and he caught her part way with his arm, stopped her fall, and she's just like, oh my God, I just saw, well, there again, that's not what she said, but she said something, she said a curse word. And she's like, when I say like, oh my OMG, I'm using that instead of whatever. But sometimes people do say that, but a lot of times they say, I mean, people are human. They're going to say the F word. They're going to say the S word. They're going to say something because they're like, holy F, look at that. What did I just see? So that's my, whatever. So anyway, she's like, holy crap, I just saw something. She's like, there's something out there. I just saw like this, well, I don't know what it was. Well, his wife, unfortunately, didn't at the time believe and didn't listen to the show. So she was uninformed and ignorant. And those are his words, not mine. Those are his words, not mine. He said, my wife was uninformed. She's ignorant. She didn't know about the show. And I said, oh, poor thing. That's why she wasn't prepared for what she saw. I'm kidding. You really can't be prepared. And he goes, I think it was a crawler. I think it was a pale humanoid crawler. He goes, what do you think? I said, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. But if I had to take a guess, I would say, yeah, that's what you saw. So I have sent probably half a dozen people out there to go camping can you recommend a place out there? I said, yes, there's a beautiful place out there. None of the other ones had the experience, but they did. So it's not like, what is that, like 1 in 6 groups of people? I mean, but it did happen. It did happen. Now, it's not like everybody that goes out there is having an experience. We see people out there swimming and having a good time all the time. But every once in a while, something weird happens.
Josh Miguel Guerrero said, are there any similar stories from the Devil's Sinkhole there in Texas?
The Devil's Sinkhole. I don't even know what that is.
Never heard of that. 86 said, is the Devil's Backbone the new Hernandez Ranch?
No, the Hernandez Ranch is actually kind of runs adjacent to the Devil's Backbone. Or I guess, would it be considered part of that?
I mean, at the very least, it's close to the same area.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they would be considered a part of it. And they have all kind of gone different directions now in their lives. I mean, when I first started covering that story, it was 2015, 2016. That's a long time. That's 8 years ago. Maybe 9 years ago. I mean, it's a long time ago. And so they've all started kind of going in different directions, but they all live around there, not far from there, except for Joe. Joe lives on the other side of Buda. But when their property, that original property. Now we have another guy whose grandfather bought land out there years ago, and he got interviewed for the book, but unfortunately I had to rush it, and my good friend Ken Gerhardt actually covered his interview because we had to interview like 60 people for the 2 books, so I had to recruit people to help. And Ken was interviewing him, but we didn't get it in time. And of course, as I've said before in the book, I took most of a chapter out, and then that chapter was absorbed by the other chapter. That being because it was going to be controversial already, with the Bigfoot thing with Claudia Ackley. I didn't need more controversy in the Dogman book. Now, this next book that's coming out, folks, hoping to get it out by the end of February. I was thinking January. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be toward the end of February, hopefully. But it's going to be controversial. Okay? It's about MK Ultra. Just letting you know.
Gosh, your brother said, Diablo Veru said, at its base, Devil's Backbone is a subterranean cave that produced the mud floods. It's a subterranean cave.
What you talking about, Willis? What in the hell? You ready to the mud flood theory now? He's been out there on post too long.
Hilarious.
I will say this. I started this whole journey down the paranormal road with my brother. We used to have a map that we created from the Devil's Backbone because I'm going to say this. I think that the experience with the ghost hitchhiker was more profound to him than it was for me, because I think that was one of the earliest proofs of life after death for him. And I may be speaking out of turn, older brother, but I mean, we did start this together, and we created a map. Now, I don't know if you remember the map, D, but on the map, we took blue push pins for all the stories we had uncovered for Bigfoot. Now, when you first started hanging out with us back when you were a young guy, I know you saw that map. Yeah, and D had it for a long time in his room, and the red part of the map was the Dogman reports. Very segregated. Okay, they were in the middle. There was like a spattering of reports of both, and in the area called the Haunted Valley, which is more to the east. But on the left, or not left, the east side of the map, the blue, which was predominantly Bigfoot, more toward San Marcos, more toward Blanco, Dogman. And in between, it was kind of a mix, but they kind of they separated, and then you'd see 1 or 2 Dogman over on the east side, 1 or 2 Bigfoot on the west side, but for the most part. And then we had the black push pins. Can anybody take a guess what those were for?
No.
Let's see if anybody in the audience.
Skinwalkers.
Anybody know? Goatman, yes, a face in the crowd, and Veluho, yes, that's what those were. Overwhelmingly, those were. Sorry, they weren't black; they were white. I'm sorry. The white push pins were Goatman. When we had black push pins, the black push pins were actually for the black dog, which was just a straight up black shaggy dog that looked like an Irish wolfhound that would run out and chase people near the cemetery from Purgatory Road. Now, the white push pins were Goatman, and those we had in a couple of different areas by the caves, where there are open mouths to these caves. I believe that those were just kind of I think that they're just all over, but in particular on Purgatory Road by the cemetery, also by the cemetery, the black dog. We had 5 of them, and they were all in that same area off Purgatory Road, nowhere else. Until recently, I had a black dog story that was given to me by someone near Blanco, and I'll get into that, or Wimberley, actually. I'll get into that in one day, not today. What did he say? Connect the dots. It was a well-constructed joke. No, What ended up happening, though, with this whole investigations and doing what we were doing, we just kind of like lost interest. Not really lost interest like we were tired of it or anything like that. We just had work to do. We had work, we had lives, we had to live, and we just couldn't go out there all the time and go hunting for ghosts and Bigfoot and werewolves. And so that being said, that's kind of like everybody's life, right? You really don't have the time to just go and deal with it all day, every day. And that's, we were no different. We did go out there quite a bit. I thought about it too. And I wouldn't go out places by myself because of what I had seen when I was 15. And I kind of think I did myself a disservice on DER by saying that I was just not wanting to go. I would not go out in the country because that really wasn't true. It was really, the truth was, I don't think that it was like, didn't want to go out there because my brother reminded me one day, he was like, what are you talking about? We went out there multiple times, which we did. But I wouldn't go by myself. And I guess I was thinking in terms of like not wanting to go out there or not going by myself. And that I did not do. I did not go out there by myself, ever. Not at all. I had some friends that convinced me to go camping out there one time back in the late 90s. And that was weird. We heard a bunch of weird stuff and had a weird dream. But it is a very haunted place. I promise you. That is the absolute truth. And there is a lot of weird stuff out there. Now, a lot of that land is now private, so if you go out there, you may end up encroaching on someone's property, so you need to be real careful about going and investigating out there. Oh, the purple post, yes. Purple posts mean that people will shoot you, and there are some out there. Also, if you go around Texas, you will find that the street signs have a lot of shotgun blast holes in them. I was explaining that to Bettina and Maddie. One of the things people here like to do is shoot at stoplights too, and I'm not joking. So if you're from another state, just be cognizant of that. We no longer have cameras checking to see if you're breaking the law when you're running stoplights and stuff like that, which Maddie said that Illinois is full of them. Of course it is, because it's communist. But here, we don't take their bull crap and we shoot them. I'm not saying I do, but some people do. But that's the truth, and so they just said, you know what, this ain't going to work. So they quit trying to film us running red lights. Now we run red lights at will. But I'm joking, folks. I don't personally do that, I have, especially during COVID, it was like, it was nobody out there. I mean, there was nobody around. But no, I try not to break the law if I can help it. I would suggest you do the same. All right. Back to the stories. Now, what I'm going to tell you before we close up shop here tonight, okay? Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Do what you're going to do. Do it responsibly. Do it in moderation. Have a drink of champagne or whatever it's going to be. I forgot. The champagne is in the kitchen, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. That's great. Clef's headed up here. I don't know.
We're not going back to the house?
Mm-mm.
I have stuff at the house.
What stuff?
I don't know.
What's the? You're ready.
I'm not ready.
Well, you're gonna stay. You're gonna stay there then, or you're gonna go to work.
It's not right.
Okay. What? Now we're talking about this on the
I
show.
didn't take anything ready to go to because I didn't know we were leaving right from here.
What do you think is gonna happen?
Thought we were going back to the house.
For what? We have no reason to.
Obviously now.
Anyways, folks, so now I'm going to have to argue with my godson. So thank you for tuning into the show. And everybody have a happy, safe New Year's Eve. I'm hoping that everybody is a wonderful and blessed New Year. And if you're listening to me, whether you love me or hate me, doesn't matter. D says it sounds like a war zone. Yeah, you're at the wall. That's why. Pray for D and Scorpion. They're out there working tonight. Did Scorp show up tonight?
Yeah. Yeah, talk
Is that Gary?
Yeah, Gary.
Yes.
So God bless you guys for working tonight and everybody else who's working tonight, all of our people. Hopefully everybody's safe tonight. We have everybody in position, getting ready, ready for the fireworks and everything that's going to go nuts at midnight. Right now here it is 9. This is 9:08. What does it say?
Yeah, 908.
9:08. So we got to get going. We got somewhere to be. We're supposed to be there at 9, but we're going to be there at 10. And everybody have a safe, happy, healthy holiday. Have a happy New Year. I hope the New Year brings you peace, Peace to Abnormal Investigations. Thank you, Mike, for making peace with us and so readily accepting my offer of peace. I'm glad that we could all resolve this. Bettina's glad. I'm glad. And those who want war, go wage it. You do it. Go wage it, go wage it, go wage it. You do it. All right?
Happy New Year.
Leave us alone. Happy New Year. Thank you.